Chapter 348. Cultivating his own force is not something that Kuroda came up with on the spur of the moment. In fact, Kuroda has long had plans in this regard, especially in the recent period of time. One thing after another has made him anxious and unable to attend to other matters at the same time. Therefore, he feels that it is very necessary to cultivate a group of loyal subordinates. After all, the shinobi world is so big. If he needs to do everything by himself, his own Kekkai Genkai snare plan will undoubtedly be greatly affected. Jishui and Itachi are powerful, and in the shinobi world, there are not many things they can't do together. But after all, the two of them are loyal to the village. Although to some extent, they can also be regarded as Hyojin's subordinates, but many of Hyojin's personal affairs, especially some experimental things, are not convenient for them to intervene. What Hyojin needs is the kind of loyal subordinates who will unconditionally execute all orders without asking for reasons. In this regard, many of Orochimaru's methods are worth learning. When Orochimaru was alive, his subordinates, whether they were the weaker ones or the stronger ones, such as Do and Kimimaro, were all loyal to him. Even if Orochimaru's hands were sealed by 3 generations Naruto with the corpse demon seal, unable to use ninjutsu, and his strength was greatly reduced, a group of core subordinates headed by Do did not betray him. It can be said that except for Uchiha, Orochimaru rarely fell. In contrast, the majestic Uchiha Madara is a complete failure in this regard. Perhaps except for his younger brother Uchiha Izuna, Uchiha Madara has no other subordinates who are loyal to him. When he had a disagreement with the Hokage, he chose to leave Konoha out of righteous indignation, but no one in the Uchiha clan was willing to follow this powerful patriarch of the Uchiha clan. Later, he created Black Zetsu with his own consciousness, controlled Obsidian, and specially selected Rinnegan Hotbed Nagato, and so on, all betrayed him. His plan to resurrect after death had turned into a ridiculous joke. If it weren't for Do, an unexpected character, who resurrected him with Edo Tensei, he, the strongest person standing at the peak of the Uchiha clan, may never have the opportunity to return to the shinobi world. Orochimaru's means of bewitching people are worth Hyojin's reference, and the series of mysterious operations of Uchiha Madara is also worth Hyojin's self-warning. After changing back to the Yin body, Hyojin once again came to Gaara's room. After telling me which areas in the Sky Fortress are the living areas that he can freely access and which areas are the forbidden areas that he can never set foot in, Hyojin introduced the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets to Gaara and told him that the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets are the stewards and guards of this Sky Fortress, and they usually have to obey the arrangements of the 3 generations of Kazekage puppet. Gaara naturally has no objection to this. In his mind when he was young, Hyojin is the strongest person in the shinobi world, a goal worthy of his lifetime to look up to and pursue. Because of the 4 symbols seal, Hyojin is not worried that Gaara will go on a rampage in the near future, so after settling Gaara down, he did not stay in the Sky Fortress for long, but directly entered the Tenseigan chakra mode and flew towards the Kusanagi village. Hyojin is the kind of person who will act immediately when he has made up his mind, and will never delay. Since he has decided to cultivate his forces, it is naturally better to do it as early as possible. Moreover, children at the age of 5 or 6 are the best time to receive ninja training. Even in Konoha, children with ninja potential enter ninja school at this age one after another. Gaara's temperament is too lonely and gloomy. Finding a partner for him will not only improve his temperament and make him more positive, but it will also give him a rival. Therefore, the target that Hyojin chose this time is Xiang Lin, who has the bloodline of the Uzumaki clan and has a cheerful personality. As a member of the Uzumaki clan, Xiang Lin's talent is beyond doubt. In the original story, not only did she not receive any ninja education in line with the characteristics of the Uzumaki clan, but she was also abused a lot in her childhood, and the environment she grew up in was extremely bad. But even so, she still grew into a very good perception type, medical, and even seal-type hybrid ninja by relying on her bloodline talent. From this, it can be seen how outstanding her talent is. Such a piece of unpolished jade, because of the war, wandering in the shinobi world and being bullied and humiliated, is really a waste for Hyojin, so he is eager to dig out this piece of unpolished jade and grasp it in his hands. At the same time, Hyojin is also a little curious about what kind of brilliance this piece of unpolished jade can bloom under his training. Just when Jishui and Hyojin's shadow clone returned to my village and reported to the 3 generations of Naruto that the Sand Crypsis has decided to join the raid and that the 4 generations of Kazekage will attend the secret meeting on time, Hyojin's main body also arrived at the Kusanagi village. The size of the Kusanagi village is actually not small. It is said that it had a short period of prosperity, but for some reason, it quickly fell into a low tide and became a small village. After disguising himself, Hyojin strolled on the streets of the Kusanagi village. Kuroto, who had just left the Sand Crypsis, was surprised to find that the Kusanagi village is even more lively than the Sand Crypsis, one of the 5 great shinobi villages. There are many people coming and going on the streets, and there are also many guests in the mission center that receives employment tasks. Driven by curiosity, Hyojin went to the mission center and found that the employment price of the Kusanagi village is significantly lower than that of the 5 great shinobi villages, and it is much cheaper than the Mai village. Can the Kusanagi afford such a low price? After thinking to himself, Hyojin slowly left the mission center. Ninjas are not machines, they also need to rest, and after being injured, they need a long period of time to recover and adjust. Therefore, this kind of price war on employment tasks may be maintained for a period of time, but it definitely won't last long. After all, the foundation of the Kusanagi village is still significantly weaker than that of the 5 great shinobi villages. However, from the behavior of the Kusanagi village, it can be seen that the Kusanagi village is actually not doing well, so it can only compete for employment tasks from the 5 great shinobi villages by lowering the price. After secretly activating the Byakugan and observing the Kusanagi village, Hyojin found several special sources of chakra in the Kusanagi village. Among them, there are 2 chakra with very similar attributes, and they are close to each other. These 2 chakra have the huge and vigorous characteristics of the Uzumaki clan's chakra, but one of them is a little abnormal and seems to be faintly on the verge of decline. Following the direction of the chakra, Hyojin soon came to a dilapidated hut. Before Hyojin walked into the hut, a ninja dressed as a Kusanagi with bandages on his body walked out of the hut and muttered, "The effect is getting worse and worse, after so many bites, my injuries haven't recovered, what a waste." Chapter 349. Hearing this, Kuroto's eyes narrowed, and he carefully looked at the grass ninja, who had just walked out of the hut, and found that there was indeed a small amount of chakra in the body of this grass ninja that didn't belong to him. And this chakra is one of the 2 suspected Uzumaki chakra that he found before. After the ninja walked away, Hyojin quietly entered the hut. In the hut, a thin little girl with red hair about 5 or 6 years old was holding a bowl and feeding a middle-aged red-haired woman on the hospital bed. Seeing this scene, Hyojin's face sank. The clothes of the middle-aged woman on the bed were disheveled. Her exposed body was covered with large and small bite marks, and many of the wounds were still bleeding. Moreover, the woman's face was sick, her eyes were sunken, and her breath was weak. Even the red hair that symbolizes the Uzumaki clan seems to have faded into a dim light red color. The little girl who was feeding the middle-aged woman on the side was holding a bowl of porridge in her hand, and the porridge was so thin that it reflected her figure. At this moment, Hyojin suddenly reacted. Before, he was very curious as to why the Kusanagi village can compete with the 5 great shinobi villages at such a low price, but now, looking at the dying woman on the hospital bed, Kuroto finally understood why the Kusanagi village has such confidence. If Hyojin's guess is right, then the middle-aged woman on the hospital bed should be Xiang Lin's mother, and Xiang Lin's strange healing ability may be inherited from her mother. And it is precisely because the Kusanagi village obtained Xiang Lin's mother that the cost of medical treatment was greatly reduced, so they dared to compete with the 5 great shinobi villages at a low price. With the chakra amount of the Uzumaki clan to be overdrawn to this extent, what do these Kusanagi ninjas think of this woman? Even Hyojin, who is accustomed to life and death and has a heart of stone, couldn't help but sigh when looking at the scene in front of him. Judging from the physical condition of Xiang Lin's mother, these grass ninjas didn't treat her as a medical ninja at all, or more accurately, these grass ninjas didn't treat Xiang Lin's mother as a human at all. Perhaps in the eyes of these grass ninjas, Xiang Lin's mother was just a useful tool. Whether it was the middle-aged woman on the bed or the young Xiang Lin on the side, neither of them reacted to the sudden intrusion of a stranger like Sui Jin. On their faces, Hyojin could only see numbness. Hyojin came to the bedside, patted Xiang Lin's shoulder, and said softly, "Let me see your mother." Xiang Lin was a little surprised. Her eyes widened as she looked at Hyojin. Hyojin paid no attention to Xiang Lin, and he activated Rolling Eye to carefully inspect Xiang Lin's mother's body. After that, he sighed lightly and shook his head. Xiang Lin's mother's condition is not an ordinary chakra overdraft. If you want to say it, it should be the overdraft of her vitality. Obviously, the special healing ability of Xiang Lin and her mother is not without a price. While healing the injuries of others, they not only consume their own chakra, but also a certain amount of vitality. If this healing ability is only used appropriately, then with the physique of the Uzumaki, there would be no problem. But Xiang Lin's mother was obviously forced to use this healing ability excessively, resulting in the consumption of vitality far exceeding the natural recovery, and finally fell to the point of being like a lamp without oil. According to Hyojin's speculation, Xiang Lin's mother will die due to excessive overdraft of her vitality in 1 or 2 days, or even 3 or 4 days at most. This is under the premise that there are no Kusanagi to absorb her chakra during this period of time, and her body has absorbed sufficient nutrients. If there are still injured Kusanagi absorbing her chakra during this period of time, then she may not live to see tomorrow. At this moment, another injured grass ninja walked into the house. After seeing Hyojin in the house, who is obviously not dressed as a grass ninja, the grass ninja immediately asked vigilantly, "Hey, who are you? Why are you here?" Hyojin glanced at the grass ninja coldly, then immediately raised his hand and activated rain pull to suck him into his hand. Then he exerted force and broke the grass ninja's neck. Bang! After throwing the body of the grass ninja in his hand aside, Hyojin said to the frightened Xiang Lin, "Don't be afraid, I'm here to save you." At this time, Xiang Lin's mother struggled to sit up from the bed and asked Hyojin weakly, "You? What do you want to do to Xiang Lin?" Hyojin said, "You should know very well that if she stays here, she will only end up like you." Xiang Lin's mother said in a trance, "No. She has more talent than me as a ninja. The village promised me that she would become a real ninja. She won't end up like me." For Xiang Lin's mother, who has lost her home country, integrating into the grass ninja village is her greatest wish, because she wants a family. This is also the reason why Xiang Lin's mother didn't hesitate even though she knew she would die. She wanted to use her own death and her contribution to the grass ninja village in exchange for her daughter Xiang Lin's complete integration into the grass ninja village and become a member. Hyojin sighed faintly. From a certain point of view, Xiang Lin's mother did achieve her goal. In the original time and space, Xiang Lin finally became a member of the grass ninja village, but Xiang Lin's status did not change at all. She was still bullied and the grass ninja village was never her home. Looking sideways at Xiang Lin, Hyojin asked, "Do you want to stay here or go with me?" Xiang Lin was not shy and asked directly, "Can you take my mother with you?" Hyojin nodded, "Of course." Xiang Lin quickly said to her mother on the bed, "Mom, let's go together. I don't like it here." Xiang Lin's mother looked at Xiang Lin in shock. She didn't expect her daughter to hate the grass ninja village so much. She hated the village that she spent her life trying to integrate into. At this time, Hyojin said to Xiang Lin's mother, "I promise you, I will treat her well. At least by my side, she can live like a person." After being lost for a while, Xiang Lin's mother nodded sluggishly. At the end of her life, after realizing that everything she had done was meaningless, Xiang Lin's mother no longer had the motivation to persevere. Her only daughter, who she had been worried about, now had someone she could entrust her life to. For a moment, she felt completely relaxed. At this time, she was already in a state of dying. Not to mention that Hyojin was not good at medical ninjutsu. Even if he knew medical ninjutsu, he wouldn't be able to save her at this moment. Looking at her mother's eyes gradually losing their light, Xiang Lin, who realized something, cried silently. She had expected this day, but she didn't expect it to come so fast and so suddenly. Chapter 350. After quietly taking the body of Xiang Lin's mother out of the Kusanagi village, Hyojin chose a place with good scenery and buried her mother together with Xiang Lin. Standing in front of the grave, the thin and weak Xiang Lin tried to suppress her emotions and silently sobbed. Hyojin patted Xiang Lin's shoulder and said softly, "If you want to cry, just cry." Xiang Lin choked with sobs and said, "Mom doesn't allow me to cry. She said that I can't be a ninja if I cry." In the heart of Xiang Lin's mother, as a remnant of the country of whirlpools, if she can't become a ninja, then she won't be able to survive in the shinobi world, so she didn't allow Xiang Lin to cry. Hyojin shook his head and said, "It's okay today. Weakness is indeed the enemy of ninjas, but crying is not a sign of weakness, especially for a 6-year-old girl who has just lost her only relative." With Hyojin's permission, Xiang Lin cried in front of her mother's grave, letting out all the sadness and depression in her heart. Then she followed Hyojin to the Sky Fortress. Xiang Lin's arrival surprised Gaara a little. In the Sand Crypsis, Gaara's situation is somewhat similar to that of Naruto. They are both eager to play with children of the same age, but other children are not willing to stay with them. Xiang Lin naturally doesn't have such prejudice. She stared at Gaara curiously. It seems that she is more interested in the word "I" on Gaara's forehead than Gaara himself. After putting all the daily necessities purchased from this trip into the warehouse, Hyojin paid attention to the two children while thinking about the training plan for these two good seedlings. Because Gaara is a Jinchuriki himself, and also has the spiritual protection of his mother, Gaara, his starting point can be said to be second only to Naruto and Sasuke among his peers. Even if Gaara doesn't receive any ninja education, as long as he can grow up smoothly, his strength will naturally reach the level of a Jonin or even an elite Jonin. However, Hyojin had put in so much effort. A mere Jonin was obviously not enough to satisfy him. Hyojin needs me to be stronger than I was in the original timeline. I need to become a strong person who can take charge of an area. When Hyojin needs me, I need to be able to fend off Kage-level enemies for him. Considering Gaara's combat style, Hyojin did not come up with any fancy training plans. Instead, he decided to start training from the most basic physical skills. Apart from the talent ability brought by the bloodline, there are only two factors that affect the strength of a ninja. First, combat wisdom. Not everyone could display their full strength. Hirako, who has fused 5 Kekii, including the Sharingan, but was defeated by 3 generations of Naruto in one move, is the best negative example. And Naruto of 4 generations of Naruto, who flexibly used space ninjutsu and Rasengan, almost single-handedly reversed Mai's decline in the Third Shinobi World War, is a positive example. Second, the refinement and application of their own chakra, as well as the mastery of subtlety. Chakra is the foundation of a ninja, So how to refine and use chakra is the most important thing for any ninja, and it is a compulsory course before performing ninjutsu. However, because he was too strong since childhood, he has not experienced many close and bitter battles, leading to Gaara's combat wisdom is not the best among his peers. In the original timeline, during the Chunin exam, facing Sasuke's increased speed, he had almost no power to fight back, and was easily injured by Sasuke's Chidori and fell into the edge of losing control. Therefore, in response to this, Hyojin arranged a physical training plan for Gaara. Physical training is the best way to train a ninja's combat wisdom. Once he gets used to this kind of intense confrontation where he must learn to predict, not hesitate, and not make mistakes, his combat experience will increase rapidly. As for Xianglin, Hyojin is not going to arrange any training plan for her for the time being. This is not because Hyojin has not thought of a specific training plan, but because Xianglin's life in the Kusanagi village is very hard. Her physique is weak, and her vitality is insufficient. She needs a good rest for a while before she can carry out tough ninja training. Otherwise, even if Xianglin has the extraordinary physique of the Uzumaki clan, her body will leave sequelae. For Xianglin's training, Hyojin also has an idea. With Xianglin's talent, Kuroda is naturally not satisfied with just training her into a logistical support type ninja. What Kuroda needs is a strong ninja who can assist Gaara, or even restrain him if he loses control of himself. Kuroda is also a strong ninja who can assist Gaara. Therefore, in Xianglin's training plan, in addition to physical training that can bring out the advantages of the Uzumaki clan's physique, there are also courses on sealing techniques and cloning technique. If Xianglin has talent in scientific research, Hyojin doesn't mind training her as his experimental assistant. After all, it can be expected that his experimental tasks in the future will become more and more heavy, and a qualified experimental assistant is indispensable for him. Seeing that the two children have sat together and began to talk in a low voice, Hyojin smiled slightly. In this plan to train his subordinates, Hyojin, like Orochimaru, chose to intervene at the most vulnerable moment of the target's mind and situation, and saved their fate with the image of a powerful savior. Therefore, Hyojin believes that as long as he gives them enough care in the future and doesn't treat them harshly, then their loyalty to him should be guaranteed. My village, Naruto's office. Kakashi and Guy are reporting to the three generations about their trip to the Cloud Village. As Hyojin expected, the hot-tempered four generations, Liang immediately agreed to join the raid on the Akatsuki organization after learning about the purpose of Kakashi and Guy's visit. After listening to the report, the three generations nodded and said, "In this secret meeting, your team 11 will participate as my guards." The three generations attaches great importance to this raid on the Akatsuki organization, so even in the My Village, they are trying their best to control the scope of the people who know about it. After all, according to the current information about the Akatsuki organization, Hirako, Orochimaru, Uchiha, and Shinichi are all traitorous ninjas from Mai, and each of them is a dangerous person who can threaten the safety of the village, so the three generations can't ignore them. In fact, if you include the disciples of Jiraiya, Nagato, Conan, and the defected Obsidian, the entire Akatsuki organization can be regarded as separated from Mai. Kakashi immediately replied, "Yes." A few days later, the three generations Naruto led the Umbu team, 11 and Jiraiya out of the village quietly and rushed to the agreed secret meeting place with the Kazekage and Liang. At this time, the one who followed the three generations Naruto is Hyojin himself. Chapter 351. In the Land of Fire, in an underground cave. The flickering candlelight on the stone platform caused the shadows in the cave to sway back and forth. At this time, Sandaime Hokage, who was smoking a pipe in his mouth, silently passed the information about the Akatsuki to Kazekage and Raikage. After receiving the information handed over by three generations, Kazekage glanced at it and his face immediately sank. Bang! The hot-tempered Laying slammed his palm on the stone table and roared, "The Akatsuki has grown to such an extent, you can't shirk the responsibility." 3 Generations lightly tapped the table with his pipe and said, "I have no intention of shirking the responsibility, but the most important thing right now is to solve the Akatsuki as soon as possible." Kazekage stared at the information and muttered, "Uchiha Shinichi, who has the Manjikyu Sharingan, Sasori, who has the ice puppet and the bone puppet, Kakuzu, who has 5 hearts, Hirako, who has 5 Kekkei Genkai, Shino, who is suspected to have become the Jinchuriki, and Orochimaru, one of the 3 original Mai Shinobi, and Bippa Juzo, one of the original Mist Shinobi 7. Kazekage's face became more and more gloomy as he read the information, and finally said with a bitter smile, "None of these guys are easy to deal with. I really didn't expect the Akatsuki to grow to such an extent. If they continue to grow, I'm afraid they will soon challenge the status of our 5 great shinobi villages in the shinobi world." "Not very soon." After a short pause, 3 Generations said with a solemn face, "They have already started the challenge." Laying asked impatiently, "How much combat power can your 2 villages send?" 3 Generations Naruto pondered for a moment and replied, "Our Mai Shinobi will not pass on the responsibility of annihilating the Akatsuki organization. This time I will personally take action, and accompanying me will be the best ninjas in Mai." Kazekage said, "I will also take action personally. Our village's Umbu captain will go with me. In addition, at least 1 advisory elder will participate in this operation." Seeing that the Hokage and the Kazekage were going to participate in this operation, the Raikage nodded with satisfaction. "Okay, as the Raikage, I will also participate in this operation personally. Chilabai and Yujito will also accompany me." After the 3 Generations and Kazekage heard this, they showed a surprised look. This time's raid on the Akatsuki is extremely dangerous, and Kumogakure even sent out 2 of their Jinchuriki. Just this point alone shows Kumogakure's determination to eradicate the Akatsuki. Outside the cave where the 3 Kage summit was held, Jiraiya called Hyojin aside and asked in a low voice, "Are you sure that the Akatsuki's leader has the Rinnegan of the legendary Sage of 6 Paths?" Hyojin replied calmly, "According to the results of the interrogation, that is indeed the case." Hearing this, Jiraiya's face darkened, and a tangled expression appeared on his face. When he learned that the Akatsuki's leader has the legendary Rinnegan, Jiraiya immediately thought of one of the 3 children he taught in the Land of Rain, the one named Nagato. Although Nagato hadn't awakened the special ability of the Rinnegan at that time, the special pupil of his eye made Jiraiya recognize it as the legendary Rinnegan. Jiraiya even thought that he had found the child of the prophecy mentioned by the great Toad Sage, who can prevent the destruction of the shinobi world, but not long after he returned to Mai, he received the news of the turmoil in the Land of Rain as well as the death of Nagato and the others. For this reason, he blamed himself for a long time. After a while, Jiraiya said in a hoarse voice, "If your information is correct, then I am afraid that the Akatsuki's leader is someone I know." "What?" Hearing this, Hyojin showed an appropriate amount of surprise. Jiraiya didn't seem to want to talk about this topic anymore, so he changed the topic and asked, "Are you sure that Orochimaru is also in the Akatsuki?" Hyojin gently nodded and said, "Yes." The reason why he didn't exclude Orochimaru and Shino from the Akatsuki's ranks is because Hyojin wants the 3 Kage to pay more attention to the Akatsuki and mobilize more manpower to participate in this raid. Jiraiya sighed and didn't say anything else, and walked away alone. Hyojin knows what Jiraiya is struggling about. With the prophecy of the great Toad Sage, whether Nagato dies by accident or falls into the wrong path, Jiraiya will blame himself for not protecting and guiding Nagato properly. After all, Nagato with the Rinnegan is too much in line with the child of the prophecy. Ignoring Jiraiya, Hyojin turned his attention to the Cloud Village. This time, The Cloud Village's lineup accompanying the 4 generations laying to participate in the secret meeting is very strong. The Hachibi's Jinchuriki and the Nibi's Jinchuriki Yujito are among them, and Hyojin even found the young 5th generation Lei-ing Derui. Immediately afterward, Hyojin glanced at the Sand Crypsis. Perhaps due to the influence of a large number of spies placed in the village by Sasori, there are not many Sand Crypsis ninjas accompanying the 4 generations of Kazekage. The only familiar ones are the elder of the Sand Crypsis, Chiyo, and the captain of the Sand Crypsis Umbu, Pakura. Resting his chin on his hand, Kuroda secretly estimated his combat power. On their side, including the 3 Kage, Jiraiya, the 2 perfect Jinchuriki, Chiyo, and Jishue, there are at least 8 Kage-level ninjas participating in this meeting. In addition to Pakura, Kakashi, and Derui, who have reached the level of Elite Jonin and can touch the Kage level. With this lineup, they have a good chance of winning against the Akatsuki organization. And this is certainly not the final lineup. The Sand Crypsis side may not be able to transfer any manpower, but Mai and Kumo should still have room to transfer elite ninjas. If there is a chance, maybe I can take advantage of the chaos to get the Rinnegan. After calculating the combat power of his side, this thought flashed in Hyojin's mind. In fact, Hyojin is also very concerned about the prophecy of the Great Toad Sage. According to this prophecy, the resurrection of Kagaya is unstoppable. In the original spacetime, there was an unexpected person who inexplicably obtained the body of Madara Uchiha, and used the Edo Tensei to resurrect the peak of the Uchiha, creating the conditions for the unsealing of Kagaya. So Hyojin is a little curious. If he controls the Rinnegan in his hands and prevents the appearance of Jubi, then how will the sealed Kagaya be resurrected? With this idea in mind, Hyojin began to think about his plan. At present, the people that Hyojin can use, in addition to Jishue, there is Itachi and Shinichi lurking in the Akatsuki organization. Counting it, there are 3 Manjikyu Sharingan in total. If he counts his own water and fire clones, and 3 generations of Kazekage puppets, the power that he can use is enough to control the situation. Chapter 352. Whether it is Naruto, Kazekage, or Lei-ing, everyone is very eager to deal with the Akatsuki organization, so they quickly reached a consensus. In order to discuss the details of the raid plan, 3 generations Naruto called Jiraiya and Hyojin into the cave, Kumo's side called the 2 Jinchuriki of their village into the cave, and Sand Crypsis' side called Chiyo and Pakura. Pointing at Suijin, who was dressed in an Umbu uniform, Sandaime Hokage introduced him to everyone. The information about the Akatsuki organization was obtained by this Umbu under my command. If you have any questions, you can ask him directly. Lei-ing immediately asked Hyojin bluntly. Hanzo died in the hands of the Akatsuki organization's leader, is this news true? Hyojin replied calmly. Yes, Hanzo's forces in the Rain Village have been completely destroyed by the Akatsuki organization, only a small number of his henchmen are left. The Kazekage then asked, didn't you find any detailed information about the Akatsuki organization's base? Hyojin shook his head. The Rain Village is under the control of the Akatsuki organization. It can be said that the entire Rain Village is the Akatsuki organization's base, so it is very difficult for outsiders to find out the specific hiding place of the Akatsuki organization. Kumo's Jinchuriki Yukinobi leaned against the rock wall and asked, there is no specific target, how can we launch a surprise attack? Everyone in the cave nodded in agreement. Without exception, everyone here is an experienced ninja, so everyone understands the importance of intelligence collection. In their opinion, only by identifying the specific location of the enemy can they launch a surprise attack. Looking around at the crowd, Kuroda frowned and felt a headache coming on. Of course, he also understands the importance of intelligence, but this time the enemy is extraordinary. Any action of sneaking into the Rain Village to collect intelligence may alert the enemy. No, it will definitely alert the enemy. Therefore, he said, I suggest that we gather all our forces and directly launch a surprise attack on the Rain Village to ensure the abrupt action. Ridiculous! As soon as Hyojin's voice fell, Yujito ni coldly snorted. Kazekage also shook his head. Facing such a strong enemy like the Akatsuki, it's too risky to launch a surprise attack without enough information. 3 generations Naruto also pondered. From his expression, it seemed that he didn't agree with Hyojin's suggestion either. At this time, Jiraiya stood up. Let me go to the hidden Rain Village to investigate. Driven by his sense of responsibility, Jiraiya felt that it was necessary for him to personally go to the hidden Rain Village. If possible, he even wanted to persuade Nagato to return to the right path. Hyojin glanced at Jiraiya and sighed inwardly. After going around in circles, I'm back. 3 generations. Naruto nodded. Okay, go ahead. After all, it was just a reconnaissance mission. He believed that with Jiraiya's strength, there shouldn't be any problems. I object. Hyojin naturally wouldn't watch Jiraiya throw away his life. One must know that the current hidden Rain Village is much more dangerous than the one Jiraiya infiltrated in the original spacetime. At this time, Sasori, Kakuzu, Bipajuzo, and the others are still alive. Coupled with Hirako, whose strength is hard to estimate, if Jiraiya is really discovered, he will definitely die. Jiraiya looked at Hyojin with some doubt, but he didn't rush to speak, seemingly waiting for Hyojin's explanation. Hyojin said to everyone in a deep voice, once the reconnaissance mission is discovered, the Akatsuki organization will be alerted, and the surprise attack will fail. That's why I propose to abandon the reconnaissance mission and directly launch a surprise attack. Jiraiya smiled and said, Don't worry, don't underestimate my infiltration ability. I don't mean to underestimate you, it's just that the difficulty of this reconnaissance mission is too high. After a pause, Hyojin's eyes swept over everyone in the cave and said, I'm afraid that no one here has this kind of ability. Laying said angrily, What a big tone! Yudoni said indignantly, Even you can detect the Akatsuki organization's intelligence, do you think we can't compare to you? Hyojin slowly took off the mask on his face and said lightly, I have the Byakugan Kekkei limit, in terms of reconnaissance ability, no one here is as good as me, there is no doubt about this. You being stared at by Hyojin's Byakugan, Yudoni was speechless for a while. After all, the Byakugan's reconnaissance ability is well known in the shinobi world. Hyojin silently looked at the 3 Kage. If the 3 Kage agree with his suggestion and directly launch a surprise attack, then the success rate of the Akatsuki organization will be very high. On the contrary, if the 3 Kage insist on carrying out a reconnaissance in advance, then the consequences will be unpredictable. Perhaps because of their weak foundation, the Kazekage is the first to shake his head. Reconnaissance is essential, we can't omit this step just because of the difficulty of the reconnaissance, and the hidden Rain Village is so big, we can't directly destroy the entire village. With Reikich's personality, he is actually more in favor of Suejin's suggestion, but the 2 Jinchuriki accompanying him this time are all the trump cards of Kumo Village. If they fail, Kumo Village will fall into eternal damnation, so he has to be cautious. In the end, the 3 generations also shook his head. Blind surprise attack is too risky. Hyojin sighed and no longer said anything. Hyojin, who knows the details of the Akatsuki organization, understands that the success or failure of this operation depends on the surprise attack. But from the standpoint of others, without any reconnaissance, rashly fighting against a strong enemy that can kill the demigod Hanzo, no matter who it is, they won't have the confidence to win, so Hyojin can actually understand the decision of the 3 Kage. But now that things have developed to this point, Hyojin has to lower his expectations for this surprise attack. After all, the Akatsuki organization has a lot of trump cards in their hands, and it's not like they don't have the strength to fight against the 3 great shinobi villages. Because of Hyojin's repeated insistence, a luxurious reconnaissance team was quickly formed. The captain is Elder Chio of the Sand Crypsis, and the team members include Jiraiya, Hyojin, and the Mist's Jinchuriki Yudoni. As a top-notch puppet master who is good at using poison, Chio is a well-deserved expert in infiltration and reconnaissance. Besides, she has experienced several wars in the shinobi world, and her combat experience is above Jiraiya's, so she is the captain of the reconnaissance team. Needless to say, Jiraiya and Hyojin join the team because second last is a cat demon who is very sensitive to chakra and has strong reconnaissance abilities. Time is running out, and while the three Kage secretly transferred manpower, the reconnaissance team also left the country of fire and quickly sneaked into the country of rain. Pitter-patter, looking at the gloomy sky above and listening to the continuous sound of raindrops, Chio, who is the temporary captain, said, "The hidden rain village is not far ahead." Jiraiya observed for a while and said, "I can take everyone to the hidden rain village through the ninja frog. There is a large number of water networks in the hidden rain village, and if they can sneak into the hidden rain village through the water network, it will undoubtedly improve their concealment." So Chio immediately nodded without hesitation. So, the four of them walked into the mouth of the toad summoned by Jiraiya one after another, and then the toad dived into the water net of the hidden rain village, releasing the four of them in a dark sewer in the hidden rain village. Byakugan, open! Without Chio's instructions, Hyojin immediately activated Byakugan and observed the surroundings. After a while, he frowned and said, "Something is wrong." Chio asked, "What is wrong?" "The rain that covers this village seems to contain some kind of chakra." Taking this opportunity, Hyojin pointed out Pain's Rain Tiger Freedom technique. "The rain contains some kind of chakra?" Chio, who was taken aback, quickly realized something and frowned. "Maybe it is some kind of detection ninjutsu." Jiraiya also nodded and said, "Well, after all, the hidden rain village is a small shinobi village, so there is no perception barrier covering the entire village, so it is not surprising to use the ubiquitous rain as a means of detection." Hyojin secretly thought, "It is reasonable to say that Pain should not maintain Rain Tiger Freedom technique all the time. This kind of large-scale technique should not be a small burden for him. But why did he just happen to activate the Rain Tiger Unrestrained technique when we sneaked in this time? Is it a coincidence, or did he notice something?" The four members of the reconnaissance team quickly left the sewer and came to the street of the hidden rain village. Glancing at the lively street, Chio said to the few people around her, "Let's split up, remember, don't get wet by the rain, try to avoid unnecessary fighting, if you encounter an accident, immediately activate the signal flare." The whole team gathered together is too eye-catching, and the hidden rain village is not small, so the efficiency of acting together is low, so they realized that the hidden rain village is more prosperous than they imagined, and the flow of people on the street is not small, so the reconnaissance team began to split up. Walking under the eaves, Hyojin silently observed the hidden rain village. Hyojin has been to many villages, but only Mai's family is as peaceful as the hidden rain village. Other villages such as the Sand Crypsis village, Grass Ninja village, and so on are not comparable to the hidden rain village. Thinking that soon this place will also be affected by the war, Kuroto can't help but sigh. After collecting his mixed thoughts, Hyojin began to observe the towers in the hidden rain village. Perhaps because the whole village is built on the water network, the low-lying areas are too cold and humid, not suitable for living, so the hidden rain village is full of towers, just like a modern city. For the tower where Pain is hiding, Hyojin's impression is very vague. He only vaguely remembers that there seems to be a strange face sculpture on the tower, and Tendo Pain often sits on the tongue of that face, like a god, overlooking the entire hidden rain village. Hey, is it that one? With the help of the Byakugan, Hyojin quickly found the tower where Pain is suspected to be. That tower is obviously higher than the other towers. It can be imagined that, standing on the top of the tower, it should be easy to observe the whole hidden rain village. Taking out a pen and paper, after a simple confirmation of the location, Hyojin began to describe the layout of the hidden rain village, especially the tower where Pain is located. It became the focus of his description. Xiao bang, in a burst of whistling sound, a dazzling flame flashed in the gloomy sky of the hidden rain village. Signal flare? Kuroto's brows wrinkled into a frown. The flashing flame of the signal flare in the air undoubtedly means that someone in the investigation team has been exposed. In other words, this investigation failed. Without any hesitation, Hyojin immediately put away the pen and paper and rushed towards the location of the signal flare. At this time, he did not care about shelter from the rain. After all, with such an obvious signal flare just now, there is no point in hiding from the rain now. The only thing he cares about now is how to safely evacuate the hidden rain village. But at this moment, Hyojin, who was galloping, suddenly saw countless pieces of paper falling from the air, blocking in front of him, and slowly gathered into a graceful human figure. Kuroto's figure stagnated for a moment, and he curled his lips. So soon? At this time, the human figure formed by the paper gradually became vivid, as if it was injected with a soul. It became vivid, and changed into a woman with light blue hair. Coldly asked Hyojin, "Intruder, state your identity." Humph! With a snort, Hyojin's figure flashed, directly launched the body flicker technique, and passed through the other party's obstruction. The identity of the other party, Hyojin naturally recognized at a glance. She is the only person in the Akatsuki organization that Nagato trusts, and one of the 3 disciples of Jiraiya, Konan. For Konan's strength, Hyojin still knows. In his vague impression, in the original time and space, Sasori seems to be recruited by Konan alone. In other words, Konan defeated Sasori, who had 3 generations of Kazekage puppets. After that, although Konan was continuously defeated by the hands of Jiraiya and Obsidian, this does not mean that Konan is weak. Among them, Jiraiya is Konan's master, and he knows how to restrain Konan's paper release, and Obsidian was almost buried in Konan's detonation talisman C, relying on the Uchiha clan's forbidden technique Izanagi to barely save his life, and found a chance to turn defeat into victory. If I don't enter the Tenseigan chakra mode, I'm afraid I can't kill her. While running, Hyojin looked back at Konan, who was chasing him in the air like an angel, and made a judgment in his heart. At this time, Konan behind Hyojin said, "Give up, you can't escape." After that, Konan waved her hand in the air, and countless pieces of paper flew like butterflies from all directions to Hyojin, who was running on the ground. Whoosh! In the sound of the wind breaking, Hyojin raised his hand and chopped the paper in front of him. Hiss, however, on these pieces of paper that were chopped, there was a detonation sound that Hyojin was familiar with. Hyojin was taken aback. He found that not only the pieces of paper that were chopped by him, but also the other pieces of paper around him all made the detonation sound. Because of the activation of Byakugan, Kuroto was very sure that these pieces of paper were all ordinary pieces of paper, but he didn't expect that in an instant, these ordinary pieces of paper would be replaced with deadly detonation charms. Is this the ability of the paper release? Chapter 353. Return to the Sky. In an instant, a chakra spiral appeared in the group of detonation charms that were about to explode, stirring up a vortex. Boom, 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 a series of deafening explosions rang out. Konan, who was flying in the air, stared at the ground with a cold expression. Although it only appeared for a short moment before the explosion, the chakra spiral was too conspicuous, so Konan, who had rich combat experience, still noticed it. Therefore, she knew very well that her attack just now should not be enough to completely kill the enemy. The smoke of the explosion soon dissipated, and as expected, the figure of the intruder appeared in Konan's field of vision. After sizing up the intruder, Lil Nan let out a soft cry of surprise. After experiencing the explosion just now, the opponent seemed to be unscathed, which made Konan somewhat surprised. After all, The blow just now was enough to deal with most of the superior ninjas in the small ninja village. On the ground, Hyojin's face was also a little gloomy. Conan's paper release not only allowed her to fly in the air, but also allowed her to cast paper clones without seals. Even with the help of the Byakugan, it was difficult for Hyojin to distinguish her. Not only that, the characteristics of the paper release also allowed Conan's body to transform into a group of detonation charms at any time and anywhere. This was undoubtedly very tricky for a ninja with close combat skills. Just imagine, in the midst of a fierce battle, the enemy in front of you suddenly turned into a group of detonation charms. Who could bear it? After a short confrontation, Conan asked coldly, "You are not an ordinary ninja, who are you? Why did you sneak into our hidden rain village?" Hyojin, holding the Kusanagi pill in his hand, slowly replied, "I am just a traveler passing by. Your hidden rain village is making a fuss." As he spoke, he silently thought about the countermeasures. He already had a general idea on how to deal with Conan, but he still needed a suitable opportunity. Boom! Just when both sides were ready to fight again, a wave of violent rumbling suddenly sounded from afar, and then even the ground started to tremble. Such an explosion immediately attracted the attention of Hyojin and Conan, and they looked in that direction at the same time. That direction, Hyojin's face darkened. The direction of the explosion was precisely the area where the signal flare had been triggered. Clearly, there was a fierce battle going on there. Because of the distance, Hyojin's Byakugan can't observe the details over there, but according to the huge and fierce chakra, Hyojin speculated that the one fighting over there is very likely to be Cloud Village's Jinchuriki, Rikiyuki. Except for her, the other members of the scouting team can't have such a huge chakra. TSK, I shouldn't have brought this hindrance along. Hyojin secretly cursed. The first member of the scouting team to be exposed is most likely the Cloud Village's Jinchuriki. Hyojin actually didn't want to bring Yuki, but Lei Ying insisted on adding a Cloud Village ninja to the scouting team, and for Lei Ying's reasonable request, Naruto and the Kazekage couldn't refuse, so Yuki, who can perceive chakra, became a member of the scouting team despite Hyojin's strong opposition. Unlike Hyojin, Conan frowned slightly. The chakra of the tailed beast class is still quite a deterrent, so she seems to be a little worried about the battle over there. Suddenly, a figure fell from the sky and landed between the two. The newcomer was wearing the red cloud suit of the Akatsuki organization, and his eyes were scarlet. It's the Manjikyu Sharingan of the Akatsuki organization, Shinichi Uchiha. Shinichi waved to Conan in the air. "Leave this guy to me. Hey, I haven't fought for a long time, my body is a little rusty." Conan still has some confidence in the strength of Shinichi, who has the Manjikyu Sharingan, so she nodded, then spread her wings and flew towards another battlefield. After Conan left, Shinichi quickly said, "Hey, are you going to attack the Akatsuki organization?" There is no doubt that Shinichi has recognized Hyojin, and he suddenly intervened to help Hyojin get rid of Conan's entanglement. Hyojin rushed up and pretended to fight with Shinichi while asking, "In addition to the rain, is there any other means of detection in the hidden rain village?" Although Yujito Ni is a little arrogant, she is by no means a rash person, so Hyojin guessed that there are other means of detection in the hidden rain village that he doesn't know about. Shinichi thought for a while and replied, "Hirako has arranged a lot of messy things in the village, some of them may be related to detection. What's wrong?" Hyojin was speechless. "Then why didn't you inform me?" Shinichi also felt a little helpless. "Hirako and Sasori, I don't know what kind of medicine they took recently, they are competing with each other every day, making a lot of messy things, I don't have the money to inform you about them one by one." Thinking about the fact that Shinichi has to pay a fee for every communication, Hyojin may not be able to afford the communication fee, so he curled his lips and said, "Originally, I wanted to use the power of the major ninja villages to attack the Akatsuki organization, but this time the investigation was exposed, I'm afraid the surprise attack won't have any effect." Shinichi frowned and said, "If you want information about the Akatsuki organization, you can find me directly. Why do you have to risk sneaking into the hidden rain village? Hey, don't tell me you don't trust me?" Hyojin said angrily, "What? Do you want me to tell the village that you are my spy? Believe it or not, the moment I tell the village that you are a spy, the Akatsuki organization will bury you alive." Hyojin then said, "I have already dealt with Shino, the information about the Akatsuki organization is almost complete, but I can't make the major ninja villages completely believe my information. They insisted on sneaking into the village to investigate. I can't stop them." Suddenly, the roar of a beast came from the distance, but this roar seems to be full of pain and sorrow. Oh no! Hyojin's heart skipped a beat, knowing that the arrogant Jinchuriki of Cloud Village is probably going to fall. Shinichi asked casually, "It seems that they can't hold on any longer. Do you want to go and support them?" Hyojin shook his head. Since the investigation has been exposed, it means that the next surprise attack has also been exposed. The opportunity to eradicate the Akatsuki organization in one fell swoop has been lost, so they should retreat immediately. After all, with the current strength of the investigation team, it is not wise to face the entire Akatsuki organization head-on. Under the cover of Shinichi, Hyojin quietly retreated to the previous sewer, which is the gathering place of the investigation team, but at this time, only Chiyo of the Sand Crypsis is at the gathering place. Jiraiya and Yujito-ni are missing. Seeing that Hyojin returned safely, Chiyo said, "Yujito-ni has been exposed. I used the puppet to observe. There is no chance to rescue her. I'm afraid we have to abandon her." As an experienced ninja, Chiyo's choice is the same as Hyojin's. She didn't rush to rescue Yujito-ni. Perhaps there is also the intention of using the Akatsuki to weaken Kumo village. After all, the Sand Crypsis just executed their own Jinchuriki, and the next time their Jinchuriki becomes effective, it may be 8 to 10 years later. On the other hand, Kumo village has 2 perfect Jinchuriki in their heyday. This has caused the strength of the major villages to be unbalanced. Hyojin doesn't care about the safety of Kumo village's Jinchuriki, he asked. "Where is Jiraiya-sama?" Chiyo shook her head. "I don't know, but you don't have to worry. He didn't intervene in the battle with Yujito-ni. He should still be hiding somewhere in the Rain Village." Hyojin breathed a sigh of relief. Losing one Jinchuriki is already a great loss for this surprise attack. If even Jiraiya is killed, then this surprise attack on the Akatsuki organization will become a complete joke. Chiyo said with a solemn face, "I have to admit that your previous judgment is correct. The security of the Rain Village is much tighter than I expected. This investigation is a failure. We must retreat immediately." Hyojin nodded and sighed. "It's a pity that you didn't listen to me. It's meaningless for them to continue staying in the Rain Village. If Jiraiya hasn't been exposed, he won't need their help, and if Jiraiya is surrounded by the Akatsuki organization, they won't be able to save him. Instead of wasting time here waiting for Jiraiya, it's better to immediately send back the news of the failure of the investigation." Not long after, Hyojin and Chiyo sneaked out of the Rain Village through the intricate underground water network and returned to the Land of Fire. At the same time, on the tower where Pain is located. Looking at Pain, who returned to the tower, Obsidian asked, "Is everything settled?" Pain just nodded indifferently. A mere Jinchuriki of Nibi. He doesn't seem to put him in his eyes at all. At this time, Conan descended from the sky and landed on the top of the tower, saying, "Shinichi failed, another infiltrator escaped." Obsidian was a little surprised. Shinichi actually failed? Pain asked, "Who is the other party?" Conan recalled for a while and said with uncertainty, "It seems to be my Hyuga clan. He does have some strength. When I fought with him before, I couldn't subdue him." Because of the short fight, Conan had a deep impression of Hyojin, especially Hyojin's calmness. It made her feel that Hyojin is a very difficult opponent to deal with, so she didn't doubt Shinichi's failure. Obsidian was a little puzzled. The Hyuga clan doesn't have any experts except their patriarch. Are you sure that the other party is from the Hyuga clan? In Obsidian's eyes, even the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, Hayashi, may not be an opponent of Shinichi. Conan didn't answer Obsidian's question, and just stared at Pain. At this time, Pain said, "Two infiltrators, one is Kumo's Jinchuriki, and the other is my Hyuga clan, and they sneaked in at the same time. It seems that the major shinobi villages already know about us." Conan asked with killing intent, "Is it Orochimaru or Shino?" There is no doubt that Orochimaru and Shino, the two traitors of the Akatsuki, are the most likely to leak information about the Akatsuki. Obsidian shrugged. It doesn't matter at the moment who leaked the information. What we need to know now is what the major shinobi villages want to do. Pain said indifferently, "Even the Jinchuriki has been sent here. Their next action is obvious." Conan was a little worried. Mai and Kumo have joined forces. Perhaps Rock, Sand Crypsis, and Kiri are also involved. With our current manpower, I'm afraid it will be difficult to resist them. Obsidian smiled. Kiri is not involved. Anoki is negotiating with us about the Chimera technique. Rock Village should not be involved either. Pain walked to the huge tongue statue that stretched out of the tower and looked at the entire Rain Village indifferently like a god, and said lightly, "This time, I will make them feel pain." The corner of Obsidian's mouth rose, and he immediately stepped back and disappeared into the vortex that suddenly appeared. Conan also nodded, then spread her wings and flew out of the tower, seemingly preparing something. Land of Fire, in the stronghold of the Three Kage Summit. Damn Akatsuki, I will completely wipe them out. After learning that the investigation operation failed, Nibi's Jinchuriki was lost, and Jiraiya was missing, Naruto and the Kazekage were stunned, and the hot-tempered Liang was even more furious, his roar resounding throughout the cave. Looking at Chiyo and Hyojin, Yagi's Jinchuriki asked, "With Nibi's strength, can't they even retreat?" Chiyo shook her head. Hyojin was too lazy to say anything at this time. Anyway, Nibi was lost in the Rain Village. Whether she is alive or dead is unknown. The one who should be anxious now is the Cloud Village, not him. As Hyojin expected, Liang couldn't wait and said, "I propose to immediately launch a surprise attack on the Rain Village." The Three Generations nodded. The disappearance of Jiraiya made the Three Generations feel faintly uneasy, so he also agreed with Lei Ying's proposal. Since Lei Ying and Naruto have made a decision, the weakest Kazekage naturally had no room to object, so he could only nod. As soon as Hyojin left the cave, Jishui came over and whispered, "Senpai, I heard that the investigation operation failed? It was a good sneak attack, but—" Shaking his head, Hyojin continued, "See, this is why I didn't let you report the information about the Akatsuki to the village before the time is ripe." Jishui's face was a little gloomy. "Even if we lost the initiative, we should still have a chance to win, right? Akatsuki is prepared. With the strength of my Cloud Village and Sand Crypsis, they may not be able to gain an advantage. I am afraid that the next battle will be an unprecedentedly large-scale battle." After a pause, Hyojin said, "Inform Itachi to be ready to support us at any time." Jishui asked, "Senpai, are you planning to?" Hyojin gently nodded. "Yes, if Amatsukami doesn't intervene, I am afraid that the village will suffer this time. Let Itachi form a team with the Kazekage puppets of the Three Generations to be in charge of the periphery. It is time for Amatsukami to show its face in the shinobi world." Jishui was a little curious. "Are you going to take action yourself?" Hyojin said calmly, "If I don't take action, no one is a match for the Akatsuki leader." Chapter 354. Swish, 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 accompanied by the sound of breaking wind, more than a dozen black shadows shuttled through the forest. Their speed was as fast as a ghost. After the dozen or so black shadows were far away, a figure leaped down from the lush treetops and silently landed on the ground. This figure was wearing a gorgeous black cloak with golden lines and a flame pattern mask on his face. It was Itachi who received the message from Jishui's ninja crow. Looking at the direction where the dozen black shadows left, Itachi's expression was a little puzzled. The previous black shadows were all my Umbu's attire, and this was what puzzled Itachi. Although he hasn't joined the Umbu yet, he has already learned some of the Umbu's rules from Jishui. Under normal circumstances, the Umbu would perform tasks in a 4-person team. When there was a shortage of manpower, the 4-person team would be divided into 2 and perform tasks in a group of 2. Therefore, this kind of gathering more than a dozen Umbu to perform tasks is very rare. Especially after several attacks by Akatsuki, Mai's Umbu suffered heavy losses and was seriously short of manpower, so it was even more unusual for more than a dozen Umbu to go out of the village to perform a task together. Is it a task related to Akatsuki? Itachi thought to himself with a sullen face. Neither Hyojin nor Jishui revealed too much about the raid against Akatsuki to Itachi, but because he also participated in the operation against Shino, Itachi could more or less guess some of it. Just as Itachi was thinking, a figure fell from the sky and landed in front of him. The person who came was also wearing a black cloak with golden lines, but the mask on his face was a wind pattern. Itachi was a little startled, and immediately said, "I am Itachi Uchiha, how do I address you, senpai?" Itachi was actually a little surprised. He thought that the person who would meet him here would be Uchiha Flames. He never thought that the person who came to meet him would be a strange member of Amatsukami. 3 generations Kazekage puppet replied coldly, "You can call me Kazekage." Itachi nodded and asked again, "Senior Wind, are there only the 2 of us in this gathering?" 3 generations of Kazekage puppets replied emotionlessly, "Yes, let's go." After saying that, 3 generations of Kazekage puppets unfolded their wings made of iron sand and flew into the sky with Itachi. At the same time, south of the Land of Fire, a group of 4 people dressed as mist ninjas were rushing towards the direction of the Hidden Rain village. The leader was a fat mist ninja who carried a ninjutsu on his back. He was the leader of the 7 mist ninjas, Watermelon Mountain Kugawa. The 3 people behind him were Dry Persimmon Demon, known as the Tailless Beast Momoji Zabuza, known as the Demon Man, and the 6-tailed Jinchuriki Takashi. Swish swish swish, after crossing a mountain stream, Kirito asked casually, "Why did Mizukage-sama suddenly issue such an order? This doesn't make sense." The 6-tailed Jinchuriki Takashi, who was at the back of the team, also raised his doubts in a timely manner. "If we execute such an order, I'm afraid it will provoke a war, right? With the current situation of the village, we don't have much chance of winning." Zabuza's eyes flashed. Mizukage-sama seems to be a little strange recently. As soon as Zabuza's voice fell, Watermelon Mountain Kugawa, as the captain of the team, snorted coldly, "Shut up, questioning Mizukage-sama's order is a capital crime." Under the scolding of Watermelon Mountain Kugawa, the team returned to silence, but under this quiet appearance, several people in the team had their own thoughts. Since the last 5 Kage's conference, the 4 generations Mizukage Jigura, who was originally committed to reforming the Mist Village, became reclusive and rarely appeared in public. Not only that, but the 4 generations Mizukage also became indifferent to the progress of the village's reform in all aspects. Instead, he increased the severity of the punishment of the ninjas in the village. In just a few months, he executed several ninjas who questioned his orders. The change of the 4 generations Mizukage was seen by the entire Mist Village, but under the iron fist of the 4 generations Mizukage, no one dared to stand up and openly question it. Over time, the Mist Village became gloomy again, and under this gloomy atmosphere, a dark tide was also quietly generated. In the Land of Fire, at the location of the Sonkage Conference, as more and more elite ninjas gathered outside the cave of the Sonkage Conference, the total number of people has exceeded 100. In the cave, Laying urged, We can't wait any longer. Although he knew that there were still many people on the way, but because Yujito Nibi's Jinchuriki was lost in the rain village, in order to rescue Yujito Nibi as soon as possible, Lei couldn't care less. Considering the failure of the investigation operation, and the fact that the Akatsuki has already learned about the raid of the 3 great shinobi villages, the 3 generations Kuroto also knows that the longer they delay, the more disadvantageous the raid will be, so he said, "Okay, let's go now." The Kazekage nodded with a blank expression. The strength of the Akatsuki is beyond his expectations, coupled with the failure of the investigation operation. He is not optimistic about the success of this raid, but now that things have come to this, he can only bite the bullet and go. After reaching a consensus, the 3 Kages left a few people to meet the reinforcements on the way, and the rest formed the raid team and rushed towards the rain village. Hyojin's team 11 is naturally included in the raid team, and because of the Byakugan, Hyojin's team 11 is also at the forefront of the entire raid team, responsible for opening the way for the raid team. The Land of Fire and the Land of Rain are bordering each other, plus the location of the Sonkage Conference is not far from the border, so it didn't take long for the raid team to break into the territory of the Land of Rain. Pitter-patter, as soon as they stepped into the Land of Rain, the sky became gloomy, and raindrops dripped from the sky, falling on the faces and bodies of everyone in the raid team, but no one stopped to put on a raincoat. Everyone looked coldly in the direction of the rain village, because everyone understands that the battle that is about to break out will be no less terrifying than the Third Shinobi War. After invading the periphery of the rain village without any obstruction, 3 generations Naruto said to Lei Ying and the Kazekage, "Everyone, act according to the plan." Lei Ying and the Kazekage nodded at the same time, and immediately led their respective subordinates to separate from the raid team and ran towards both sides. Ninjas are different from samurai. Gathering a large number of ninjas together will not effectively improve their combat effectiveness. On the contrary, it will cause unnecessary accidental injuries due to the large range of ninjutsu. In addition, this raid is to completely annihilate the Akatsuki organization, so they will disperse and surround them, launching a raid from 3 directions at the same time, to ensure that no fish will escape the net. For this deployment, Hyojin also raised objections, but was rejected by the 3 Kages. Obviously, even the more experienced and conservative Sandaime Hokage's evaluation of Pain's strength is not small. After all, after Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, there hasn't been a super strong shinobi like Pain in the shinobi world for decades. Pain's strength is above the Kage level. After the raid team was divided into 3 groups, in order to wait for the Cloud Village and the Sand Crypsis to get into position, Mai's team temporarily stopped. At this time, 3 generations Naruto called the 4 members of Team 11 to his side and said, "Take advantage of the gap before the full-scale raid is launched. Your Team 11 will sneak into the Rain Village first and support Jiraiya." As to why Jiraiya chose to stay in the Rain Village alone, the 3 generations are well aware, because Jiraiya has privately told the 3 generations Naruto about his sheltering and guidance of Nagato in the Rain Village, and showed his determination to persuade Nagato to turn back, so the 3 generations suspect that Jiraiya chose to stay in the Rain Village to find an opportunity to persuade Nagato. For Jiraiya's choice, the 3 generations neither agreed nor opposed. He disagreed because he was worried about Jiraiya's safety. If the leader of the Akatsuki really cares about Jiraiya-sensei, then he wouldn't have repeatedly attacked Mai. He didn't oppose because he also hoped that Jiraiya would be able to persuade Nagato to take down the Akatsuki without shedding a drop of blood, and once Mai subdues Nagato, who has the Rinnegan, then the other great shinobi villages wouldn't dare to provoke Mai anymore. Yes. Kakashi didn't know about the entanglement in the hearts of the 3 generations. He just nodded and led the Team 11 to set off. Because Yujito Ni is trapped in the Rain Village, she will definitely be interrogated by the Mortal Path's Pain, and the mortal path can directly extract the target's soul to obtain information, so even if the Yujito ni is determined and unyielding, it will be difficult for her to keep the secret. Therefore, Hyojin didn't choose the waterway that he sneaked into last time, but chose another one. Fortunately, the water network under the rain village is dense like a maze, so under the leadership of Hyojin, the Team 11 sneaked into the rain village without any mishap. Coming to the sewer, Hyojin said to the companions around him, "Don't get caught in the rain. The rain in this village is actually a kind of perceptual ninjutsu. In addition, there should be some other perceptual methods in this village. As for how Yujito ni was discovered last time, we still haven't figured it out, so everyone should be extra careful. If you are exposed in this damned place, you will most likely lose your life." Okay. Kakashi and the others nodded. Next, Suijin took out the map of the layout of the rain village and the specific location of the tower where Pain is located, and pointed to the tower and said, "I suspect that the leader of the Akatsuki organization is hiding in this tower, so it is very likely that Jirai-sama is also hiding in the vicinity of this tower." Guy glanced at the map drawn by Hyojin and frowned. "There are all high-rise buildings, and the range is so large, how can we find him with just a few people?" After pondering for a moment, Kakashi replied, "We can only act separately. We must find Jiraiya-sama before the raid is officially launched." Jishui took out a timer and glanced at it. "If there is no accident, the raid will be launched from 3 directions in 15 minutes. It will be very difficult for us to find Jiraiya-sama in such a short time." Kakashi said, "Time is pressing, we can only try our best. Finding Jiraiya-sama is the order of the 3 generations. Team 11 must execute it." So soon Kakashi and Guy left the sewer one after another. At this time, Jishui asked Hyojin-sama, "Hyo-san, how are we going to act?" "Wait." Hyojin-sama only spat out a word. Hyojin is not only waiting for the raid to officially launch, but also waiting for Shinichi-sama's message. According to their previous discussion, Shinichi-sama should have already passed the Akatsuki organization's response to the raid. But Hyojin-sama has been waiting for Shinichi-sama's message until now. There are only 2 possibilities in this situation: either Shinichi-sama has been exposed, or Shinichi-sama has been accompanied by other members of the Akatsuki organization, so he can't find a chance to send a message. Jishui glanced at the timer again and asked, "Aren't we going to find Jiraiya-sama?" "Don't worry." After a pause, Hyojin-sama sat on the ground and said, "Among the Sannin, Jiraiya-sama's strength is actually above the other 2, so even if the leader of the Akatsuki organization wants to kill Jiraiya-sama, it will take some effort." Seeing Hyojin-sama sat down, Jishui asked tentatively, "Are you waiting for Shinichi-sama's news?" After the last attack on Shino, although Jishui still doesn't know that Shinichi-sama is a spy planted by Hyojin-sama in the Akatsuki organization, but he knows that Shinichi-sama has contact with Hyojin-sama. At this time, seeing Hyojin-sama sitting on the ground as if waiting for something, he immediately thought of Shinichi-sama. Hyojin didn't hide it from Jishui. "Yeah." Jishui-sama was a bit worried. "Does Shinichi know about our operation? He is now a member of the Akatsuki organization. If he meets people from Cloud Village or Sand Crypsis, it will be troublesome." Kuroda didn't talk about Shinichi's matter, he just said calmly, "No one is absolutely safe in this operation, even I may die here, so you have to be mentally prepared. Don't bring Kodo Amatsukami into the tomb." Kuroda didn't talk about Shinichi's matter. Jishui also sat down and said in a deep voice, "I have already prepared myself." Hyojin continued, "The Akatsuki member who attacked Naruto last time may be the culprit who plotted against Yondaime-sama Naruto and single-handedly caused the Nine Tails rebellion. The other party is likely to have a Manjikyu Sharingan, and his pupil power may even be above yours, so your Kodo Amatsukami may not be able to easily subdue him, so even if you use Kodo Amatsukami, you must remain vigilant." Jishui quickly said, Are you worried that the other party is immune to my Kodo Amatsukami? I am worried that he is immune to your Kodo Amatsukami, but deliberately pretending to be controlled by your Kodo Amatsukami. After a pause, Hyojin smiled and said, "In the shinobi world, my acting skills are not necessarily the best." In the past, Hyojin pretended to be controlled by genjutsu and easily defeated Shinichi, but Jishui was too confident in his genjutsu, so he was plotted against by Danzo and lost one of his Manjikyu Sharingan, so Hyojin is worried that he will fall in this aspect. And this time, if Jishui falls, Hyojin may not be able to rescue him in time. If Jishui's pair of Manjikyu Sharingan that contains Kodo Amatsukami falls into the hands of the Akatsukami, with the special constitution of obsidian cells, he may be able to use Kodo Amatsukami frequently and completely disrupt the order of the shinobi world. Boom! Or suddenly, there was a loud noise in the distance, and the sewer also trembled. Jishui quickly looked at the timer and said doubtfully, "No, it's not the time for the raid yet." Suijin, on the other hand, was very calm and said, "That's right, how can the Akatsuki organization wait for us to launch a surprise attack? If the investigation operation fails, then there's no chance of a surprise attack." Jishui got up and asked, "Kuroto-san, what should we do?" Hyojin still sat in the same place. "Wait, we only have one target, and that is the leader of the Akatsukami." Soon, the sound of explosions came from all directions. Shursui, who was touching the ground with both of his fingers, carefully sensed for a while, then frowned and said, "All the explosions seem to be outside the Hidden Rain village. Our people seem to have been intercepted outside the village." Hyojin said lightly, "The battle has broken out." Chapter 355. After breaking the neck of an Umbu member of the Cloud Village, Hirako, who was wrapped in bandages all over his body, slightly raised the corner of his mouth, revealing an evil smile. Coupled with the scarlet Samigakure Sharingan in his eye sockets, it gives off an indescribable feeling of strangeness. Carrying the dead body of the Cloud Umbu member, Hirako slowly walked towards the Cloud team while saying with a mocking smile, "TSK, are you in such a hurry to die?" The hot-tempered 4 generations Laying suddenly roared, "You damn bastard!" Bang! Throwing the body in his hand aside like throwing garbage, Hirako chuckled and said, "Hey, it seems that I will have one more Laying head in my collection." The Cloud ninjas cursed at Hirako's words, but no one rushed forward in a hurry. There is no doubt that with the passage of time, Hirako has become more and more proficient in using the 5 types of Kekii limit in his body, and what followed was naturally a strong self-confidence, as well as the aura brought by this self-confidence. Looking at Hirako standing alone in front of the Cloud team, Kurabi showed a rare serious expression and whispered in the ear of 4 generations Laying, "There are still a few minutes left before the raid is launched. What should we do now?" 4 generations Laying, full of killing intent, glared at Hirako and said to Kurabi, "The Akatsuki organization is ready, we can't delay any longer, immediately launch the raid. You lead the team to attack the Rain Village first. I will immediately meet up with you after killing this my traitorous ninja." Kurabi nodded, and immediately ordered the Cloud Umbu member next to him, "Let's begin." After receiving Kurabi's instruction, the Cloud Umbu member immediately took out a signal flare and shot it into the sky. Shio! Boom! In an instant, a dazzling flame flashed in the gloomy sky of the Rain Country. This signal flare is the official communication signal for the raid. Once it is fired, it also announces that the raid on Kumo's side has officially started. After firing the signal flare to notify Mai and the Sand Crypsis, Chilabai directly led the Kumo team to bypass Hirako and rush towards the Hidden Rain Village, not far ahead. Looking at these Cloud ninjas who were bypassing them, Hirako's mouth curled up into a smile. Swish! Suddenly, amidst a sharp whistling sound, a dazzling blue electric light flashed in front of Hirako. Die! This blue lightning bolt was naturally the hot-tempered 4 generations Laying. After activating the lightning escape chakra mode, he roared and attacked Hirako. In the blink of an eye, Lei Ying's fist covered in lightning struck Hirako. However, the expected scene of flesh and blood splattering did not appear. Lei Ying's figure paused for a moment, and when he looked back, he found that what he hit was only an afterimage of nothingness. At this time, Hirako's figure flashed in the position where Lei Ying was just a moment ago, and the smile on his face became even wider. Your speed is not bad, but your insight is a bit lacking. Lei Ying's face sank slightly. Rapid release? Because there is no stable ninja clan in the Kekii limit world, they only occasionally appear in the shinobi world, so even the knowledgeable Lei Ying has only heard of them and has never actually fought against them. Yes, this is the fastest ninja in the shinobi world. With a smile, Hirako said in a playful tone, your lightning escape chakra mode is not slow, but unfortunately, you don't have a pair of Sharingan. In this kind of peak speed contest, can your ordinary eyes capture my figure? Lei Ying angrily said, arrogant guy, it seems that it's time to let you understand the difference between a ninja who carries the name of Kage and a small fry like you. After saying that, the lightning around Lei Ying's body became more active, and under the effect of the turbulent lightning escape chakra mode, which is not inferior to the tailed beast class, even his hair stood on end. Heavy explosion stream. Accompanied by a roar, Lei Ying once again rushed towards Hirako, but this time, his figure arrived first, and the roar came slowly. Boom! The sudden acceleration of Lei Ying caught Hirako by surprise, and in a burst of explosive sound and violent shockwaves, Hirako was sent flying. Lei Ying was too lazy to go forward and check, so after a light snort, he exited the lightning escape chakra mode. Even with 4 generations of Lei Ying's physique, maintaining the lightning escape chakra mode for a long time is a great burden, not to mention that he still has to fight with the leader of the Akatsuki, who is rumored to have the Rinnegan, so naturally, he must save as much chakra as possible. As for Hirako, Reikage firmly believed that he must be dead, because no one had ever survived his heavy explosion style, head-on, no one had ever survived. Just as Lei Ying turned around and was about to catch up with the Kumo team, he suddenly felt a stabbing pain in his waist. Immediately afterward, Hirako's exasperated voice came from behind him. I'm not dead yet, where do you think you are going, you bastard? Reikage suddenly turned around and punched Hirako, forcing him to retreat. He then checked the wound on his waist and found that although the wound wasn't big, it was still bleeding profusely. Moreover, the blood that flowed out had an abnormal grayish-black color. Knowing that when Hirako attacked him, he used poison, Lei Ying once again activated the lightning escape chakra mode, while taking out a bottle of antidote from his ninja tool bag. On the opposite side, Hirako was panting violently. At this time, a large part of his chest was sunken. It can be seen that Lei Ying's heavy explosion stream has caused great damage to him. However, as his muscles under the bandage fluctuated a little, the sunken area gradually returned to normal. Pooey! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Hirako said fiercely, I've changed my mind, I want to turn you into a specimen. After drinking the antidote, Lei Ying said, You are the first person to survive after being hit by my heavy explosion stream. Sure enough, you are no longer a normal person. After tearing away his calm appearance, Hirako revealed his innate madness. He roared in a low voice, You ants simply don't understand, what I have is a real immortal body. The two powerhouses, who were filled with battle intent, quickly became entangled with each other again. In an instant, in the rain curtain, one blue and one gray, two incredibly fast phantoms entangled with each other, and wherever they went, the earth shook and the mountains shook. When it comes to speed, the rapid release Kekii limit mode and lightning escape chakra mode are almost the same, but Lei Ying's lightning escape chakra mode not only increases speed, but also improves overall defense. Under the lightning escape chakra mode, Most taijutsu, ninjutsu, and even genjutsu are useless against Lei Ying. 3 generations of Lei Ying relied on the lightning escape chakra mode to hold back the rock village's nearly 10,000 ninja army by himself, successfully covering the retreat of the Cloud Village's ninja army. Although in the end, Lei Ying died in battle, this is enough to show the power of the lightning escape chakra mode. But Lei Ying's opponent, this time, has more than just the rapid release Kekii limit. Hirako also has the steel release Kekii limit with extremely strong defense, as well as the Sharingan with extraordinary insight, coupled with the nether release that can absorb chakra, as well as the mist release Kekii limit that can change the nature of chakra. It's more than enough to fight against Lei Ying's lightning escape chakra mode. My brigade. Looking at the flaming signal flashing in the air in the distance, a Mayumbu reported to the 3 generations of Naruto, Naruto-sama, the Cloud Village's raid has been launched. The 3 generations of Umbu frowned, the agreed time for the raid has not yet arrived, but the Cloud Village has sent a signal ahead of time. This undoubtedly means that the Cloud Village has encountered a big accident. The Akatsuki is really prepared. After thinking to themselves, the 3 generations of Umbu looked at the Sand Crypsis again. At this moment there is no movement from the Sand Crypsis. It's unknown whether they are not in position yet or they are already in position, waiting for the agreed time to launch the raid. After a little consideration, the 3 generations of Umbu ordered the Umbu next to him, launch the signal flare, launch the raid. Yes. After responding decisively, the Umbu took out the signal flare. But at this moment, a twisted whirlpool appeared behind the Umbu member, dragging the Umbu member who was about to shoot the signal flare into the whirlpool. Stop! Enemy attack! Be careful! The sudden attack caused the My Brigade to cry out in alarm. The 3 generations of Umbu reacted the fastest, immediately shooting several shurikens, but Obsidian, who completed the sneak attack, directly disappeared, allowing the shurikens to pass through his body. The 3 generations of Umbu was shocked. It's you? Are you the one who kidnapped Naruto before? Obsidian's ability to turn himself invisible is really impressive, so Team 11 reported it to the 3 generations of Umbu in detail. Therefore, the 3 generations of Umbu Naruto recognized Obsidian as the mysterious person who kidnapped Naruto before. Standing quietly in the My Brigade, Obsidian didn't feel nervous at all. He said lightly, Naruto-sama, you are already so old, why don't you stay in the village and enjoy your retirement? The 3 generations of Umbu smiled. If I don't get rid of you ambitious people hiding in the dark, how can this old man dare to retire in peace? The Obsidian's tone became even more indifferent. Your era has long passed. No one can stop this change in the shinobi world. Is the change you are talking about repeatedly attacking Mai? The 3 generations of Umbu's face sank and said solemnly, as Naruto, I will never allow anyone to threaten Mai. The Obsidian shrugged. Unfortunately, you can't stop anything. The 3 generations of Umbu bit his finger and shouted, Summon Jutsu, demonic ape! Banged after a burst of white mist, an old ape appeared in everyone's sight. The old ape looked at the Obsidian surrounded by Mayumbu and asked, Hyzen, is the enemy this kid wearing the one-eyed mask? The 3 generations of Umbu nodded with a solemn expression. The enemy has a very strange space-time ninjutsu, it's very difficult to deal with. What's going on in the shinobi world recently? Why are monsters coming out one after another? After whispering, the demonic ape turned into the Vajra wishful staff and flew to the hands of the 3 generations of Naruto. Looking at the 3 generations of Naruto holding the Vajra wishful staff, Obsidian's expression under the mask became more cautious, but that's all. In Mai, the only one that Obsidian is really afraid of is the 4 generations of Naruto. This is also the reason why he deliberately wants to get rid of the 4 generations of Naruto. As for the other ninjas in Mai, even the reputation of 3 generations of 4 generations of Umbu is far above him. He doesn't care much. because only spacetime ninjutsu can deal with spacetime ninjutsu, and the 3 generations of Umbu are not good at spacetime ninjutsu, so they are not a threat to him. What's more, the 3 generations of Umbu are old, and their combat power is no longer at its peak. Water Release. Great Waterfall Technique. With a loud shout, an overwhelming wave of water rushed towards the Sand Crypsis team that was galloping in the rain. The 4 generations of Kazekage at the forefront of the team immediately stopped and pressed his hands on the ground. A golden sand rose from the ground and formed a huge sand wall, protecting the people of Sand Crypsis inside. After the waves receded, the Kazekage removed the sand wall and looked at the 4 mist ninjas and asked, "What do you want to do?" "This is a joint operation of our Sand Crypsis, Mai and Cloud Village. Do you want to declare war on all 3 of us at the same time?" Watermelon Mountain's Kakuto said, "I'm sorry, we were just hired by the Rain Village to help them resist foreign invasion." "Foreign invasion?" The Kazekage sneered and said, "Hanzo has been dead for many years, and the Rain Village has long been occupied by the Akatsuki. Our operation this time is aimed at the Akatsuki." Watermelon Mountain's Kakuto was too lazy to reason with the Kazekage and directly said, "I don't know anything about the Akatsuki, I only know that this is a commission mission, pass the barrier here." One of the Sand Crypsis Umbu angrily said, "Pay attention to your identity, how dare you talk to our Kazekage like this, you are too arrogant." Zabuza coldly snorted and said, "Sand Crypsis is just a lackey of Mai." The Kazekage looked at Chiyo and Pakura next to him with a sullen face, thought for a moment and said, "Elder Chiyo, you lead the team and continue to move forward, I will personally deal with these mist ninjas. Whether it is the Puppet Master Chiyo or the Fire Release Kekii Genkai, they are not suitable to deal with the Mist Squad with the 6-tailed Jinchuriki, so the Kazekage has to personally deal with them." Chiyo nodded her head. "The raid is about to start and time is running out. It is indeed not wise for the Sand Crypsis Brigade to entangle with a few Mist Ninjas here, so she led the Sand Crypsis Brigade to bypass the Mist Squad and continue to move towards the Rain Village." Seeing this, Watermelon Mountain's Kakuto said to the Ghost Mermaid and Zabuza next to him, "You go and stall the Sand Crypsis Brigade, you Gao and I are enough to deal with the Kazekage." Zabuza smiled and decisively left the team and chased after the Sand Crypsis Brigade. The Ghost Mermaid glanced at the Kazekage on the opposite side and didn't say anything and followed Zabuza. On the Sand Crypsis Brigade side, seeing the Mist Squad separated 2 people to chase after them, Chiyo frowned. Just when Chiyo was thinking about how to deal with them, the Sand Crypsis Umbu Captain Pakura said, "I will go and deal with them." There is no better candidate, so Chiyo nodded and said, "Well, but it seems that they are all water release ninjas, you have to be careful, the water release restrains your burning release Kekii Genkai too much." Pakura nodded, and then led a team to separate from the Sand Crypsis Brigade, and went to meet the Ghost Mermaid and Zabuza, who were chasing after them. After splitting up twice in a row, the combat power of the Sand Crypsis Brigade has been seriously weakened, but Chiyo didn't stop moving forward, because this raid also involves Mai and the Cloud Village, so even if it is for the dignity of the Sand Crypsis Brigade, she must lead the team to launch a raid on the Rain Village as scheduled. Otherwise, if the Sand Crypsis Brigade is delayed by a few Mist Ninjas, and the time to launch the raid is delayed, then the reputation of the Sand Crypsis Brigade in the shinobi world will really be ruined. Whoosh, but at this time, 2 figures fell from the sky and landed in front of the Sand Crypsis Brigade. Both of them were wearing the Akatsuki Red Cloud uniform, and one of them was none other than Chiyo's grandson Sasori, and the other one was the traitor Kakuto of Takenobi Village mentioned in the intelligence report. Sasori put one hand on his waist and said, "Grandma, you shouldn't have come here." Chapter 356. Chiyo sized up the Sasori on the opposite side, then slowly moved her gaze upwards, looking at the ninja beast that was hovering in the air while carrying Sasori and Kakuzu. Flying ninja beasts are actually not uncommon, but most of them are thin and can only be used for reconnaissance. Even in the entire shinobi world, a huge flying ninja beast that can carry a person is extremely rare. Moreover, Chiyo quickly noticed that the flying ninja beast in the air is very consistent with the description of Hiriko's flying ninja beast in the intelligence report. Thinking that the feather of Hiriko's flying ninja beast mentioned in the intelligence report is a kind of explosive feather comparable to a detonation talisman, Chiyo immediately ordered the Sand Crypsis ninjas around her. Don't gather together, quickly disperse. The Sand Crypsis ninjas who participated in this raid are all elites, and after receiving Chiyo's warning, they immediately changed from a surprise attack formation to a loose defensive formation. Sasori smiled, then waved his hand towards the air. With Sasori's arrogant temperament, he naturally disdains to use the power of others to deal with his grandmother, not to mention Hiriko, who is his competitor. Getting the signal from Sasori, Hiriko's flying ninja beast no longer hovered in the air, and with a flap of its wings, it flew towards Hiriko's direction without looking back. Looking at the flying ninja beast in the air flying towards the direction of the Kumo team, Chiyo's face sank. As an experienced advisor of the Sand Crypsis, Chiyo can already conclude that the Akatsuki organization has not only blocked the Sand Crypsis team, but also Mai and Kumo. Immediately, Chiyo locked her eyes on Sasori. The reason why the Sand Crypsis joined the raid against the Akatsuki organization is precisely because Sasori, who murdered 3 generations of Kazekage, is one of the members of the Akatsuki organization, and the reason why Chiyo joined this operation is to personally get rid of this grandson who has already fallen to the evil path. Slowly lowering her hands, Chiyo said with a sad expression, "Perhaps I shouldn't have taught you puppet techniques." Sasori twisted his neck and chuckled, "Grandma, you really are getting old. In the past, you would never show such a weak expression. I can't help but feel sad when I see my good-for-nothing grandson." After a pause, Chiyo then said, "It was me who taught you the puppet technique, so I should be the one to end you." Sasori put away the smile on his face and said indifferently, "In terms of puppetry, I have long surpassed you. You should know this better than me. I am the strongest puppeteer in the shinobi world." Chiyo took out a string of kunai connected by chakra thread and said, "You just took the forbidden step." After saying that, Chiyo's expression became gloomy, because she herself had also taken that taboo step. In order to resurrect her son and daughter-in-law, she developed the forbidden technique self-reincarnation at the cost of her own life. Scorpion curled his lips in disdain. "Stubborn! Eternity is the true meaning of a puppet master. The bottom line that you old fellows insist on is meaningless. The path that I have chosen is the correct one." Chiyo no longer said anything and directly shot out more than a dozen kunai connected by the chakra line. Kakuzu, who was standing next to Sasori, immediately pressed his hands on the ground and shouted, "Earth escape, earth formation wall." Crash! An earthen wall rose from the ground and protected him and Scorpion. Then, the dozen kunai that Chiyo shot out hit the earth wall and made a clanking sound, but without exception, all of them were blocked by the earth wall. After the earth release ninjutsu disappeared, Sasori said to Kakuzu, "Don't interfere in the battle between me and her, you go deal with the others, I want to settle this with her." Kakuzu nodded and rushed towards the group of Sand Crypsis ninjas. At the same time, Sasori and Chiyo also took out a scroll and summoned their puppets, starting the real puppet master duel. Rain Village. Noticing the outbreak of the melee, Hyojin and Jishui left the sewer. The battle has already broken out, and it doesn't make much sense to continue to wait for Shinichi to pass on the information about the Akatsuki organization's response to this raid, so instead of waiting in the safe sewer, it's better to choose a tower with a wide field of vision to monitor the battle in real time and grasp the situation of the entire battlefield. Leaving the sewer, Hyojin came to the street and soon found that there were almost no people on the streets of the Rain Village. Obviously, Nagato has evacuated the civilians of the Rain Village before the battle started. Alright, everyone doesn't need to be restrained anymore. After thinking to himself, Hyojin chose a tower with a wide field of vision and walked towards it. In the process of walking up the stairs, Hyojin used Byakugan to observe the situation of the Rain Village and found that the fire of war hasn't reached the inside of the Rain Village yet. Following behind Hyojin, Jishui was obviously anxious. As the real initiator of this operation, Jishui hopes that this raid can wipe out the Akatsuki organization in one fell swoop, but he is also worried that the raid will fail and the village will suffer serious losses. With the outbreak of the war, his anxiety has become more and more serious. After climbing to the top floor of the tower, Jishui couldn't help but ask, "Kuroto-senpai, it's been so long, why hasn't the raid team attacked yet?" Standing by the window, Hyojin looked outside and replied, "The Akatsuki organization should be outside of the Rain Village and have launched an attack on the 3 raiding teams." Jishui frowned. "They only have a few people, how can they intercept the 3 raiding teams at the same time? Did they mobilize all the ninjas in the Rain Village?" Hyojin also felt that something is wrong. The Akatsuki organization should not have enough manpower to intercept the 3 raiding teams at the same time, unless Pain and Obsidian are involved. At this time, a large group of chakra appeared in Hyojin's field of vision. Hyojin calmly said, "They're here." Because of the distance, Hyojin's Byakugan can't clearly identify the identity of this group of ninjas, but according to the analysis of the situation, it should be one of the raiding teams successfully attacked the Rain Village. Jishui was overjoyed when he heard this. "Great! Don't be happy too early, only one of the 3 raiding teams has successfully attacked, the other one is weak, and it's easy to be attacked by the Akatsuki organization." As soon as the voice fell, Hyojin's speculation was confirmed. In the direction of the group of chakra, there was a loud explosion. Obviously a fierce battle broke out there. Looking at the fire in the distance and the rising smoke, Jishui said, "Kuroto-senpai, should we act now?" Hyojin shook his head and said, "It's not the time yet." This unprecedented chaotic battle around the Rain Village did not disturb Hyojin's train of thought. He is very clear about what he should do, and what his goal is. For the Akatsuki organization, killing their ordinary members doesn't have much meaning. If he wants to completely eliminate the Akatsuki organization, then he must kill the 2 core members of the organization, Obsidian and Nagato, and because of Kamui and Izanagi, it is very difficult to eliminate Obsidian, at least with the current strength of Hyojin, it is extremely difficult. Therefore, the only way to deal a heavy blow to the Akatsuki is to kill Nagato and seize the Rinnegan in Nagato's eye sockets, which is the Rinnegan in Nagato's eye sockets. Other than that, all the attacks on the Akatsuki organization will be trivial. But, Shui opened his mouth, but he held it in. Jishui simply believes that he is the one who provoked the attack on the Akatsuki organization, but he is hiding here and watching his companions fight for their lives, so he is very anxious. Soon, the battle in the distance was getting closer and closer to the center of the Rain Village, and Hyojin also saw that the raid team that successfully broke into the Rain Village belongs to the Kumo group. However, what made Hyojin a little puzzled is that the leader of the Kumo team is not Yondaime Laying, but Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Fighting with the Kumo raid team is the team of Uchiha Shinichi and Bippa Juzo, but Shinichi obviously didn't use his full strength, and Bippa Juzo only has the strength of an elite jonin, therefore, the 2 of them naturally couldn't resist the raid of the Kumo team, and the flames of war spread all the way to the center of the Rain Village. What about Laying, who is holding him back? Hyojin, who is hiding on the tower, thought for a moment and immediately suppressed his thoughts. He doesn't care about Lei Ying's situation, and with Lei Ying's strength, he doesn't need to worry too much, so he concentrated on observing the surroundings, looking for his target. At this time, a beautiful figure appeared in the sky above the rain village, like an angel spreading her wings, flying in the air, looking at the battle below with an indifferent expression. Hyojin's eyes narrowed. Finally appeared! The appearance of Conan means that pain is most likely nearby, and Conan, who was flying in the air, didn't have the slightest intention of intervening in the battle below. It can be seen that her duty should be to observe. After a round of careful observation, Suijin finally found a ninja wearing the Akatsuki red cloud suit with orange hair tied in a ponytail on the top of another tower. This is, just as Hyojin secretly recalled that this puppet is one of the 6 paths of pain. The ponytailed ninja made a hand seal and slammed on the ground. Bang! A puff of white smoke rose, and then a giant dog with a huge black stick on its nose appeared. Hyojin adjusted the rhythm of his breathing using psychic ability and said, "It's animal path." With the appearance of pain, Hyojin also felt a trace of nervousness, a kind of nervousness that he hasn't felt for a long time. The appearance of the split dog also made Jishui notice the animal path, standing on the top of the tower, exclaiming, "Kuroto-san, look over there, the leader of the Akatsuki has appeared." Hyojin gently nodded. "Yeah." Jishui quickly said, "Kuroto-san, let's attack." Hyojin still calmly said, "It's not the time yet." Jishui was a little puzzled. Why? Hasn't the leader of the Akatsuki already appeared? Hyojin lightly said, "According to the information provided by Shinichi, this puppet in front of us is likely to be a puppet controlled by the leader of the Akatsuki with the help of the Rinnegan ability. Shino also doesn't know the details of the 6 paths of pain, so Hyojin can't explain the source of his information to Jishui, so he can only blame it all on Shinichi." "Puppet?" Jishui was taken aback and immediately said in disbelief. But the eyes in his eye sockets are indeed the same as the Rinnegan described by Shino. Hyojin didn't explain much. Let's wait a little longer. The 6 paths of pain that Nagato controls with the Rinnegan is similar to the clone that Hyojin controls with the Tenseigan. Both can be abandoned and replaced at any time. In contrast, Nagato's 6 paths of pain is more like a puppet. As long as there is a corpse that fits the black stick, it can be easily replaced. The cost is far lower than Hyojin's clone. Therefore, killing the 6 paths of pain doesn't make much sense. The reason why Hyojin didn't report the information about the 6 paths of pain to the village is that someone must fight with the 6 paths of pain head-on. Only then will he have the opportunity to attack Nagato, who is hiding in the dark. After being attacked, the split hound that could continuously split appeared, and the situation of the battle immediately changed. The Cloud Raid team quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. Fortunately, the Hachibi's Jinchuriki didn't cause the Cloud Raid team to collapse. At this time, in the field of vision of Hyojin's Byakugan, several familiar figures appeared. Among them, Kakashi and Guy are in a building on the ground, while Jiraiya is hiding in the tower where the animal path is located. Obviously, they were all attracted by the battle of the Cloud Raid team. Looking at the location of Jiraiya, Hyojin is very clear about his plan. Jiraiya, who has used all his means, can at least resist 3 of the 6 paths of pain, plus the assistance of Kakashi and Guy, as well as the Cloud Raid team led by the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Although the combat power is far less than Hyojin expected, Hyojin feels that it should be enough to delay the 6 paths of pain for a while. Where is Nagato's main body? Knowing that this is a critical moment, Hyojin used the Byakugan with all his strength. Just as Hyojin was looking for Nagato's position, Jiraiya on the opposite side launched a sneak attack on the animal path at the top of the tower. His white hair suddenly grew long and wrapped around the animal path like a snake and dragged him into the tower. Boom! However, as soon as the animal path was dragged into the tower by Jiraiya, there was a roar from the top of the tower. Immediately afterward, Jiraiya flew out of the hole on the top of the tower and fell to the ground. Then, when the smoke of the explosion dissipated, 3 yellow-haired ninjas wearing the Akatsuki red cloud suit with Rinnegan in their eye sockets appeared at the hole on the top of the tower. Among these 3 people, except for the animal path, the other 2 are fat men with strong bodies. It seems that they are the Hungry Ghost Path and Azura Path of the 6 Paths of Pain. At this time, Kakashi and Guy rushed to Jiraiya's side with body flicker technique. Looking at the 3 people of the 6 Paths of Pain at the top of the tower, Kakashi was surprised. How can there be 3 pairs of Rinnegan? Jiraiya is also confused at the moment. If the appearance of the animal path is somewhat similar to that of Nagato, then the appearance of the Hungry Ghost Path and the Azura Path is completely different from that of Nagato. Chapter 357. At the top of the tower, Animal looked coldly at Jiraiya and said slowly, "Teacher Jiraiya, you really came." Kakashi and Guy were taken aback and immediately looked at Jiraiya. Obviously, Animal calling Jiraiya teacher surprised them. They never thought that Jiraiya and the leader of the Akatsuki would have such a relationship. Jiraiya was still puzzled and asked in an uncertain tone, You are Nagato?" After living with Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan for 3 years, Jiraiya was very familiar with them. Not to mention the difference in appearance, just the hair color, the orange-haired animal in front of him is a world of difference from the red-haired Nagato of the Uzumaki clan. But this person called him teacher. Obviously, this person should be one of the 3 Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan. Animal lightly said, "You don't need to know so much." Jiraiya's face suddenly darkened. He looked up at Konan, who was flying in the sky, coldly watching the whole battlefield. His heart suddenly jumped. Is this person in front of me Yahiko? But how can he have Nagato's Rinnegan? And the 2 beside him, why do they also have Rinnegan? Kakashi whispered, "Jiraiya-sama, you and him?" Jiraiya sighed and explained, "Hey, he is probably one of the disciples I left in the Rain Country, but I didn't expect him to go down the wrong path." Guy swallowed and asked nervously, "Which one of them is the leader of the Akatsuki? Why do they all have the Rinnegan described in the intelligence?" Jiraiya said solemnly, "As far as I know, there is only 1 pair of Rinnegan. There must be something strange here. Be careful, the enemy this time is not the same as usual." Animal on the tower slowly began to make hand seals, and as he did so, he said, "Jiraiya-sama, I'm sorry, but I have to get rid of you." After saying that, Animal pressed his hands on the ground. Bang! 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 In an instant 3 streams of white smoke rushed out, and then 3 huge figures came out of the white smoke. These 3 figures were all huge spiritual beasts. One was a giant bird flying in the sky, one was a green chameleon climbing on the top of the tower, and the last was a giant centipede coiling around the tower. Seeing 3 giant spiritual beasts appear in the animal road at once, even the experienced and knowledgeable Jiraiya could not help but be dumbfounded. Kakashi had a helpless expression. Why does he have so many spiritual beasts? At this time, the chameleon turned invisible and entered camouflage mode, while the giant bird in the sky swooped down towards Jiraiya and the others on the ground. The giant centipede also climbed down the tower in a menacing manner. Seeing this, Jiraiya immediately bit his finger and quickly made a hand seal, and shouted, "Spiritual art!" Bang! After the white smoke disappeared, a giant toad holding a steel fork appeared in front of Jiraiya. This toad was Mount Miyaboku's Toad Jien. Compared to the hot-tempered and attack-oriented Buntai, Toad Jien was better at defense, and was more suitable to fight against many. Jumping on top of Toad Jien's head, Jiraiya said, "Help me by some time, I'm going to summon the 2 immortals." "I will do my best," Toad Jien replied in a muffled voice. At this time, the giant bird was already in front of them, and Toad Jien couldn't care less and directly used his shield to block. Clang! The giant bird's abnormally sharp beak pierced the shield, and an ear-piercing sound of metal colliding could be heard. The huge rebounding force not only sent the giant bird flying, but also flipped Toad Jian to the ground. Rumble! Amidst the tremors, the giant centipede suddenly burrowed out of the ground, and its sharp mouth bit Toad Jian's right leg. Toad Jian couldn't care less about the injury on his right leg, and immediately flipped over, using the steel fork in his hand to stab the giant centipede's head, trapping it on the spot. For a moment, it seemed like it couldn't move. The clash between the three giant spiritual beasts caused the ground to shake, dust to rise, and rocks to fly everywhere. Looking at this scene, Kakashi, who had retreated to the side, had a gloomy expression. With his current strength, it was very difficult for him to interfere in a clash of this level. If he was not careful, he might even be dragged into the battle and killed by the giant spiritual beasts like swatting a mosquito. After the battle broke out, the battle intent in Guy's heart suppressed his nervousness. At this moment, he was a little eager. At this moment, a figure flashed behind Kakashi and Guy. Kakashi, who was already prepared, immediately used Chidori, and turned around to stab the enemy who sneak attacked him. Chi in the flashing lightning and thunder, Kakashi clearly saw the one who sneak attacked him. It was one of the 3 Akatsuki members who had Rinnegan. At this distance, you can't dodge. At this distance, Kakashi has absolute confidence in his Chidori. But just when Kakashi's right hand was about to stab the opponent's chest, the lightning attribute chakra that lingered on Kakashi's right hand disappeared without a trace, as if it was absorbed by something. Bang! After losing the lightning attribute chakra, Kakashi's right hand hit the opponent's chest and made a low muffled sound. Kakashi was shocked. How can this be? Guy was also surprised, but as a taijutsu ninja, his body's instincts still drove him to send a flying kick towards the attacker, trying to cover Kakashi's retreat. The one that appeared behind Kakashi and Guy is naturally the Hungry Ghost Path, one of the 6 paths of pain that can absorb chakra. He grabbed Kakashi's right hand with one hand and blocked Guy's flying kick with the other. Seeing that the opponent grabbed his right hand, Kakashi made a prompt decision and once again activated Chidori, wanting to take advantage of the situation and hit the opponent's heart. But just as the lightning began to shine, it was sucked away by an inexplicable force, just like before. But this time, Kakashi saw it clearly. The fat Akatsuki member with Rinnegan seems to have an ability similar to the Hell Release Kekkei Genkai, which allows him to absorb chakra. The hungry ghost glanced indifferently at the shocked Kakashi and immediately kicked Kakashi away. Guy quickly helped Kakashi, who was kicked by the hungry ghost, and asked, "Are you okay?" Cough cough. After coughing twice and spitting out a mouthful of blood, Kakashi gasped and said, "The opponent can instantly absorb chakra. I'm afraid ninjutsu is useless against him. Let me deal with him." Guy clenched his fist and shouted, 8 inner hidden gates open." In an instant, Guy opened 6 gates in a row, and a wave of air gushed out of his body, forming an upward vortex, and even the curtain of rain was scattered to the sides. But just as Guy was about to attack, the hungry ghost retreated and disappeared in front of him. Disappeared? Guy looked depressed. He had just opened the 8 inner hidden gates, but the enemy disappeared without a trace. Lying on the ground, Kakashi, who had not yet fully recovered, warned, "Be careful, he hid in the mouth of the giant chameleon that can turn invisible. Although the speed of the hungry ghost is very fast, it still can't escape the insight of Kakashi's Manjikyu Sharingan." In an instant just now, Kakashi discovered the secret of the hungry ghost's sudden invisibility. Shio shio shio. Suddenly, with a sharp sound of breaking wind, countless missiles fell from the sky like raindrops, shooting towards Kakashi and Guy on the ground, who were looking for the hungry ghost. Guy looked up when he heard the sound, and suddenly his scalp went numb. He carried the injured Kakashi and flew away. Unexpectedly, these missiles seemed to have the ability to track them. After making a turn, they all chased after them again, not letting go of Guy and Kakashi. On Jiraiya's side, Toad Ken was fighting 1 against 2, but he was not at a disadvantage. Jiraiya, who was standing on top of Toad Ken's head, finally summoned the two-toed sage Fukasaku and Shiken. Looking at the animal standing on the top of the tower, Fukasaku sage asked, "Little Jiraiya, is that the child of prophecy that you once mentioned?" Jiraiya nodded. "It really is the Rinnegan." After a pause, Shiken changed the subject. "Child's father, at this point, why are you still mentioning the child of prophecy?" Fukasaku sage nodded and said, "Well, although he has the Rinnegan, he is definitely not the child of prophecy mentioned in the great sage's prophecy." Jiraiya hesitated for a moment and pleaded, "Two sages, I want to try to persuade him." Shiken sage said with displeasure, "He doesn't look like he will listen to persuasion at all." Fukasaku sage also echoed, "Little Jiraiya, the other party is a powerful ninja with the Rinnegan. If we are soft-hearted, the ones who will die are likely to be us." At this time, Hachibi's Jinchuriki, who temporarily got rid of the dog, rushed over, jumped on top of Toad Ken's head, looked up at the animal standing on top of the tower, and asked Jiraiya, "Is he the leader of the Akatsuki?" Jiraiya nodded and immediately asked, "What about our Mai and Sand Crypsis raid team? How come only Cloud Village's raiding force managed to get in?" Chalabi replied, "The Akatsuki organization has arranged a lot of blocking forces outside of the Hidden Rain Village. Our Cloud raid team was delayed by our laying, Sama. I think Mai and Sand Crypsis should have also been blocked, so they couldn't attack the Hidden Rain Village as planned." After answering Jiraiya's question, Chalabi looked at the animal on top of the tower and asked, "Where is Yujito-ni?" After Yujito-ni fell into the Hidden Rain Village, the goal of the Cloud Village has changed from destroying the Akatsuki organization to rescuing Yujito-ni. Therefore, the most urgent thing for Chalabi at the moment is not to kill the leader of the Akatsuki organization, but to find Yujito-ni. Animal looked at Chalabi condescendingly and murmured, "Hachibi's Jinchuriki? Among all tailed beasts, the eight-tailed ox demon is second only to the nine-tails. It is a very powerful tailed beast. And Chalabi's Jinchuriki is a perfect Jinchuriki that can communicate with the eight-tailed ox demon. Its strength is far above ordinary Jinchuriki. Even the previous Nibi's Jinchuriki Yujito-ni is far from being Chalabi's opponent. Therefore, even Nagato, who has the Rinnegan eyes, has to be a little cautious when facing Chalabi." And so, Pain slowly walked out and stood beside the animal path. As soon as he saw Pain, Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. "Yahiko?" Pain was originally made from Yahiko's corpse, so Jiraiya quickly recognized it. But the more he recognized it, the more confused he became, because Yahiko's eye sockets were also filled with strange circles of Rinnegan's strange patterns. Chalabi froze. "Another pair of Rinnegan eyes?" Jiraiya said with a solemn expression, "No, this is already the fourth pair." At this time, Pain put his hands together, and in an instant, a black ball containing a strange power flew out from his fingers and floated in the air. Jiraiya, Chalabi, and the two toads all looked at the black ball floating in the air at the same time, because the strange power contained in the black ball is too special. Soon, the ground began to crack, and some gravel rose into the air, as if it was pulled by some force. Sage Shima, who was floating, asked, "What's going on, the child's father?" Sage Fukasaku, who was floating with him, was also at a loss. "Is this some kind of ability of the Rinnegan?" Feeling the crisis, Chalabi said, "Not good, we must break free from this shackle, otherwise we are dead." Finding that his body is out of control, Jiraiya said, "Damn it, I can't do anything at all." Pain coldly spat out 4 words, "Earth-shatter heavenly star." As Pain injected the power of the Rinnegan eyes into the Earth-shatter heavenly star, the gravity of the strange black ball floating in the air immediately increased exponentially. Crash! The bricks and stones on the ground shattered and were sucked into the air, The tower near the black ball also began to distort and slowly tear apart, then the whole tower seemed to be torn apart by a pair of invisible hands and was dragged into the air. In an instant, Chalabi, Jiraiya, Sage Fukasaku, Sage Shima, and even the huge toad Ken were all sucked into the air and were gradually buried by the countless piles of gravel and steel. Hachibi's Jinchuriki, Jiraiya, Mount Miyaboka's Sage Fukasaku, and Sage Sherman, all of them are famous existences in the shinobi world, but under the attack of Tendo Pain, these people didn't even have the strength to fight back and were instantly sealed by Tendo Pain. At this time, Pain also slowly floated into the air and said indifferently, "In front of God, you mortals are not worth mentioning." Seeing that the main force of the attack on the Rain Village was easily dealt with by Pain, Jishui, who was hiding in the tower in the distance, could no longer hold back and said, "Senpai, I must go and save them." Hyojin no longer stopped him, because he didn't expect Pain to deal with Jiraiya and Chalabi so easily. Chapter 358. Looking at the giant sphere hanging high in the air, Hyojin's eyes narrowed as he muttered to himself, "Perhaps even I underestimated Nagato." The scene in front of him undoubtedly shows that Nagato's full strength is not something that ordinary Kage levels can contend with. Under Tendo Pain's Earthshatter Tensei, Jiraiya, whom Hyojin had high hopes for, had no power to fight back. He didn't have the domineering aura that he had when he defeated 3 of the 6 paths of pain in the original spacetime. Hachibi's Jinchuriki didn't struggle at all. The strength of the perfect Jinchuriki was completely sealed before it could be used. Looking down, Hyojin carefully looked at a building in the distance. As the headquarters of the Akatsuki, the core area of the Rain Village has a large number of seals. These seals can not only block the long-range perception of perception-type ninjas but also interfere with the detection of Byakugan. Therefore, even with the Byakugan, Hyojin can't see through many areas at a glance. But even so, Hyojin is not completely helpless. According to the distribution of these seals, as well as the position of Konan in the air, he quickly circled several suspected hiding places of Nagato, and the building he was observing at this time is the most likely one of them. Could it be there? Hyojin's face was a little more dignified. The current situation is completely out of his expectations. There is a big gap in the calculation of combat power. His side doesn't have enough combat power to drag the 6 paths of pain, draw Nagato's attention, and consume Nagato's chakra. Therefore, there is only one chance for him to sneak attack. If he guesses wrong, then he can only fight. At this time, Jishui left the tower where Hyojin is located. In order to avoid Hyojin's exposure, he went to the other side, and then with the help of Earthshatter Tensei, he jumped toward the giant sphere suspended in the air. Pain, who was floating in the air, quickly noticed Jishui. However, because Jishui was dressed as a Mai Umbu member and was wearing a mask, Pain thought that he was just a Mai Umbu member who was attracted by the power of earth-shattering heavenly star, so he didn't pay too much attention and didn't make any extra movements. After all, in Nagato's eyes, the ordinary Black Ops were nothing to him. When Jishui was pulled to the surface of the giant sphere by the gravitational force of Chibaku Tensei, he did not hesitate to open the Manjikyu Sharingan and use Susanoo. In a split second, an emerald-green shadow was projected from his body. Uchiha Jishui? In the air, Pain frowned and guessed the identity of Jishui. After activating Susanoo, Shursui didn't pay any attention to Tendo Pain, who was not far away from him, and instead exerted all his strength to activate the Manjikyu Sharingan, continuously injecting the power of the Manjikyu Sharingan into Susanoo, stimulating the largest Susanoo he has ever activated in his life. Roar! With a roar, the body of this godlike emerald-green Susanoo expanded once again. Originally, it only had an upper body, but now it gradually showed complete limbs. With 4 limbs, it is the embodiment of the near-complete form of Susanoo. Although there is still a significant gap between the current Susanoo of Jishui and the real complete form of Susanoo, but this state of Susanoo is extremely rare. On the tower, seeing this scene, Hyojin secretly broke out in a cold sweat for Jishui. Jishui's Sharingan is just an ordinary Manjikyu Sharingan. After excessive consumption of the power of the pupil, it cannot be restored. If Jishui acts recklessly, it is likely that he will completely lose his sight. After operating Susanoo to the extreme, Shursui gasped for breath while urging his Susanoo to dig the giant sphere with his bare hands. Because he was worried about hurting Jiraiya and others who were sealed in the giant sphere, he did not dare to use the spiral sword attached to his Susanoo. Fortunately, the size of Susanoo is huge. Even if he is digging with his bare hands, the digging speed is not slow. In just a few times, an obvious gap was dug in the giant sphere. Seeing Jiraiya's white hair and half of his body exposed through the gap, Jishui was overjoyed and said, "Jiraiya-sama, please hold on a little longer, I will save you immediately." Jiraiya, who was bound by the Chibaku Tensei, was also surprised and said, "Be careful." Boom. As soon as Jiraiya's voice fell, Jishui staggered along with his Susanoo, and was almost pushed out by an inexplicable force. Fortunately, Shursui's Susanoo was holding on tightly to the gap of the giant ball, and only then was he able to stabilize his body. Huh! Pain, who was not far away, was surprised. There is no doubt that the blow just now was Pain's Shinra Tensei, but Pain obviously underestimated the power of Jishui's Susanoo, so his casual blow did not work. Knowing that Pain would not give him any more chances, Jishui made a prompt decision and urged the Susanoo to swing the spiral sword and fiercely inserted it into the giant sphere, instantly cutting a large gap in the giant sphere. Jishui's blow not only completely freed Jiraiya and the two toads next to Jiraiya, but also revealed half of the body of the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Just a little bit more. Jishui gritted his teeth and was about to swing the sword again. Seeing that the blow just now failed to push Jishui's Susanoo away, Pain simply stopped using Shinra Tensei and put his hands together again. In an instant, the pupil power of the Eye of Samsara that had stopped injecting was once again injected into the core of the earth-shattering heavenly star. The enormous ball, which was suspended in the air and was continuously falling rock fragments, faintly showed signs of collapsing, once again condensed. Those rock fragments that had already fallen into the air once again flew up and were absorbed into the enormous ball. Jishui, who was on the surface of the giant sphere, was the first to bear the brunt of this sudden suction force and was pulled to the ground. Although his Susanoo tried to resist, it was also forced to kneel on the ground by the suction force of the earth-shattering heavenly star. Seeing that everyone was about to be sealed by the earth-shattering heavenly star again, Jishui, who had no hope of escaping, had to use all of his chakra. Boom! With the release of Jishui, 8 huge octopus-like long tails suddenly stretched out of his body. Then, using his body embedded in the giant sphere as a point of force, Jishui suddenly stretched out his 8 long tails and struggled to push Jiraiya, the 2 toads, and Jishui out. Under this huge burst of power, Jiraiya, the 2 toads, and Jishui escaped from the influence of the earth-shattering heavenly star and fell to the ground. After falling to the ground, everyone was panting. At this time, Jiraiya and the 2 toads were extremely embarrassed, and Jishui, who had already withdrawn his Susanoo, fell into a state of exhaustion. Even standing was a little difficult. Looking at Chilabai, who was once again sealed in the giant sphere and disappeared without a trace, and Shursui, who was beside him, whose legs and stomach were trembling, Jiraiya knew very well that if he was hit by Pain's earth-shattering heavenly star again, perhaps no one would be able to save him. Therefore, he quickly said to the 2 toad immortals beside him, "Immortals, let's begin." The 2 toad immortals, Fukasaku and Hoshi, immediately jumped on Jiraiya's shoulders with a dignified expression. As sages with a long life, Fukasaku and Shima have experienced a lot of battles and have seen many powerful ninjas in the world of ninjas. In addition to Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, who established the shinobi village system, the leader of the Akatsuki organization, who has the Rinnegan, is probably the strongest ninja they have ever seen. In the face of such a strong ninja, they know that if they are not careful, they may lose their lives, so after jumping on Jiraiya's shoulders, they immediately used the two-life technique. Jiraiya also put his hands together and cooperated with the two-toed. During this period, Jiraiya can't use any ninjutsu that requires hand seals. He must wait until he has collected enough nature's chakra before he can release his hands. At this time, everyone around the Hidden Rain village was fighting. Nagato obviously didn't intend to slowly entangle with Jiraiya, so Tendo Pain raised his hand towards Jiraiya on the ground and said indifferently, "Jiraiya, sensei, give up, you can't compete with God." Jiraiya shouted, "Yahiko, I don't know what the three of you have experienced, but I know that what you are doing is wrong, turn back." "Wrong?" With a cold snort, Tendo Pain said, "From now on, right and wrong are defined by me." Jiraiya said bitterly, "Don't lose yourself in power, I know your nature is not like this." At this time, Conan, who was in the air, said coldly, "As strong people, you are used to ordering the weak around. Now that a stronger person has appeared, you have become the weak, and you are trying to persuade us not to lose ourselves in power. Jiraiya, sensei, if we don't have power, I'm afraid we won't even have the opportunity to talk to you on equal terms, right? Should we, the ninjas of a small village, accept the fate bestowed by the 5 great shinobi villages, and any resistance is an unforgivable sin?" Jiraiya looked at Conan and said, "But you are provoking a war now." Tendo Pain shook his head and said lightly, "No, we just want to re-establish the order of the shinobi world." "Yahiko, Conan, it's not too late for you to stop now." After a pause, Jiraiya persuaded emotionally, "You are all children who have experienced war, you should know how destructive war is, that kind of pain will take a whole generation to heal. Do you want to see more orphans like you in the shinobi world?" Conan showed a sad look, but there was no hesitation in her eyes. At the moment of Yahiko's death, Conan understood that dialogue and understanding will not bring the final peace. If you want long-term peace, you can only use deterrence through power. Therefore, Nagato wants to collect the 9-tailed beasts, resurrect the 10 tails, and create the ultimate weapon that can destroy a country with one blow, so that the chaotic shinobi world can maintain eternal peace under the deterrence of the 10 tails. Tendo Pain also paused for a moment and replied lightly, "That is just a temporary pain." Seeing that there is no possibility of persuading Tendo Pain and Conan, Jiraiya had no choice but to ask, "What about Nagato, where is he? Is he still alive? Why do you have his Rinnegan?" "Nagato." Tendo Pain thought silently and immediately replied, "Nagato died many years ago. In the heart of Nagato, the original Nagato died along with Yahiko, and the current Nagato is just a ghost who inherited Yahiko's will, a puppet who will do anything to bring peace to the shinobi world." Jiraiya asked in confusion, "But why do you have so many Rinnegan? Let's stop reminiscing." After saying that, Tendo Pain slowly landed on the ground and walked towards Jiraiya. Jiraiya immediately became alert. It will take some time to enter Sage mode, so he must delay for a while. Tendo Pain, who has the Rinnegan, can vaguely feel that the 2 sage toads on Jiraiya's shoulders are absorbing the nature energy that is dissipating in the air, plus Naruto, Lei Ying, and Kazekage are 3 more difficult enemies, so Tendo Pain doesn't want to continue to entangle with Jiraiya, so he directly shouted, 10,000 Mammoth. The sudden appearance of suction immediately sucked Jiraiya towards Tendo Pain. Jiraiya, who has already suffered a loss, was prepared this time. He immediately shook his head and shouted, "Lion's hair technique." Instantly, Jiraiya's white hair swelled up, divided into several strands, and firmly nailed to the ground, restraining Jiraiya from flying towards Tendo Pain. At this time, Tendo Pain shook his hand, and 2 black rods emerged from his sleeves. Holding the black rods, Tendo Pain slowly walked towards Jiraiya. At the same time, one figure after another fell from the sky, surrounding Jiraiya in the center. Jiraiya looked around and his face changed. A total of 5 figures fell from the sky, including Tendo Pain. There are a total of 6 people, and all of them have Rinnegan in their eye socket. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In a burst of wind sound, Pain's 6 paths attacked Jiraiya at the same time. Jiraiya, who had his hands clasped together, could only rely on the lion's hair technique to barely resist, but Pain's 6 paths attacks were more fierce than any enemy he had encountered before, so in just a few breaths of time, he was kicked away several times. Jishui, who wanted to go forward to help Jiraiya, was also kicked to the ground by Azura. Looking at Jiraiya, who was still clasping his hands together on the ground, Tendo Pain said with disdain, "Teacher Jiraiya, I know you are preparing some kind of secret technique, but it seems that you are not ready yet, and you can't separate your hands. Humph, facing me in this state, I'm afraid you won't even last a minute." Boom. At this time, with a roar, Kakashi and Guy rushed out of the smoke. Behind them, a giant centipede with black rods stuck in its body chased after them. Pain glanced at Kakashi and Guy, who were running away, and said lightly, "The rats are all here, then let's get rid of you all at once." Pain's 6 paths, other than Tendo, immediately rushed towards Kakashi and Guy. Because Kakashi didn't know the Hungry Ghost path before, he was seriously injured, so he was quickly knocked down. On the contrary, Guy, who had opened the 8 inner hidden gates, lasted for a long time, and finally Pain's 5 paths joined forces to subdue him. Seeing that all the reinforcements were knocked down, Jiraiya's heart was dead. Damn, so close. At this time, Pain came in front of Jiraiya and pointed the black rod in his hand at Jiraiya. "Teacher Jiraiya, it's over." At the same time, the animal path pointed the black rod at Jishui, the hungry ghost path pointed the black rod at Kakashi, and the Azura path pointed the black rod at Guy. All of their lives were hanging by a thread. Pa. Just when everyone thought that they were going to die, the Pain's 6 paths, including Pain, seemed to have lost consciousness and fell to the ground at the same time. Chapter 359. In a dark room with almost no light, Hyojin slowly withdrew his hand from the wooden cart. At the same time, on the place where Hyojin's hand was pressed, a black sealing technique spread out. These sealing techniques seemed to have a mind of their own as they quickly spread to the surroundings. Sitting on the wooden cart was the leader of Akatsuki, Nagato. He has red hair that symbolizes the bloodline of the Uzumaki clan, but his body looks very thin. It can even be said that he is as thin as a stick, like a starving person who was displaced during the war. In the face of Hyojin's sneak attack, Nagato did not panic. He first looked down at the 4-symbol seal that spread from the wooden cart to his body, then turned his head with disdain to look at Hyojin, who had activated the Tenseigan chakra mode, and was wrapped in a sky-blue Tenseigan chakra, wearing Amatsukumi's Yama attire, and said with a slightly hoarse voice, "Amatsukumi's Yama?" Hyojin ignored Nagato. Instead, he urged the Tenseigan chakra all over his body to condense the truth-seeking ball. Before, when Jiraiya, Jishui, Kakashi, and the others were knocked to the ground, hanging on the line between life and death, Hyojin sighed helplessly. He understood that he couldn't wait any longer. Although it wasn't the best time, and he couldn't filter out the real hiding place of Nagato, but for the sake of the lives of his classmates, he had to take the risk and gamble. Fortunately, his luck was good. He guessed the real hiding place of Nagato. But on that day, when Kuroto quietly approached the hiding place of Nagato's main body, he accidentally discovered that with Nagato's main body as a dot, there was a dense and imperceptible chakra network. This chakra network radiated out in all directions, forming a huge circular chakra sensing circle. The closer one got to the region where Nagato's main body was, the denser the chakra network became. Hyojin speculated that this was the range where Nagato's black rod could transmit and sense chakra. After realizing this, he gave up on using the golden wheel reincarnation explosion to launch a surprise attack on Nagato. This was because no matter if it was condensing the truth-seeking jade or activating the truth-seeking jade to perform the golden wheel reincarnation explosion, it was inevitable that there would be violent chakra wave. Once the chakra fluctuations were too intense, Nagato would be able to detect them in advance through the chakra network that was densely packed around him. At that time, let alone launching a surprise attack, it was unknown whether or not he could even get close to Nagato's main body. Therefore, Hyojin decisively chose to launch a surprise attack with the Four Symbols seal. The reason why he chose to launch a surprise attack with the Four Symbols seal was not only to avoid being detected by Nagato in advance, but more importantly, to cut off the connection between Nagato's main body and the six paths of pain outside and save Jiraiya and his colleagues who were on the verge of death. Of course, Hyojin didn't expect that the Four Symbols seal would be able to completely subdue Nagato. In his mind, as long as the Four Symbols seal could control Nagato for 30 seconds, it would be enough for him to condense more than 4 truth-seeking jade and activate the golden wheel reincarnation explosion. Looking at the truth-seeking jade flashing out from between Hyojin's eyebrows, the disdainful expression on Nagato's face gradually solidified. A long-lost sense of crisis suddenly welled up in his heart. He quickly raised his hands and shouted at Hyojin, "Shinra Tensei!" Bang! Hyojin also raised his hands. "Rain wheel manipulation!" Bang! 2 huge repulsive forces instantly collided with each other, and at the moment of impact, the space seemed to be slightly distorted and deformed. Nagato was taken aback, and his face became more and more dignified. Under the mask, Hyojin's expression became more gloomy. Because he found that his rain wheel manipulation with the support of the Tenseigan chakra mode was actually on par with Nagato's casual Shinra Tensei. This was obviously not a good sign. On the battlefield outside, looking at the 6 paths of pain, who suddenly lost consciousness and fell to the ground, Jiraiya, Jishui, Kakashi, and Guy looked at each other. Just a second ago, they were still standing in front of the gates of hell, waiting for death to descend upon them. Then, in the next second, a powerful enemy that they could not contend against had fallen to the ground for no reason. This sudden change was truly unbelievable to them. Among them, only Jishui vaguely guessed something, but at the same time, he also had a trace of worry. He was worried that because of saving him, Hyojin's plan will be disrupted. Konan, who originally had a cold face in the air, changed her expression greatly, and for the first time, she showed a look of panic. She was the only one present who knew the details of Pain's 6 paths. Seeing this scene, she understood that Nagato's main body was probably in trouble, so she immediately flew in the air, her body turned into pieces of paper, and flew towards the hiding place of Nagato's main body. At this time, Guy jumped up from the ground and went forward to check the Azura closest to him. The sturdy Azura was covered with black sticks of different sizes all over his body. The surface of his body was cold and pale, giving people the feeling that he was a corpse that had long lost its body temperature. After turning over the Azura, Guy hurriedly said to everyone, "There are no external injuries on the surface." The others also climbed up from the ground at this moment, while checking the 6 paths of pain who fell to the ground. They were vigilant of the several pains large spiritual beasts around them. But these giant spiritual beasts seemed to have been affected by something. They all stood still where they were, as if they were puppets that had lost their souls. And after a few breaths of time, they disappeared in puffs of white smoke without a trace. Without the giant split dogs to contain them, the Cloud team finally arrived at the battlefield. At the same time, Uchiha, Shinichi, and Pipa Juzo, who had been fighting with the Cloud team in the distance, also rushed over. The two sides didn't fight again, instead, they looked at the battlefield while confronting each other. After a quick glance at the battlefield, a Cloud Umbu member asked Jiraiya, "Where is our Cloud Village's Chilabai-sama, where is he?" Jiraiya pointed to the giant sphere that was still suspended in the sky and said, "He was sealed in that stone sphere by the Akatsuki organization's leader." A group of Cloud Ninjas exclaimed, "What?" On the other side, Uchiha Shinichi and Bippa Juzo were also shocked as they looked at the 6 Paths of Pain clones lying on the ground. They were wearing the Akatsuki red cloud suit. Shinichi curled his lips and said, "No way, the leader was killed?" Although it is not clear which of the 6 bodies lying on the ground is the leader's body, but this scene undoubtedly shows that Mai, Cloud, and Sand Cripsus Coalition Army won. Bippa Juzo placed his sword horizontally in front of him and whispered to Shinichi, "We have to find a way to get out." The Akatsuki organization is a loose organization, completely deterred by the tyrannical Pain. If even Pain died, Bippa Juzo naturally won't fight here and die in vain. Boom! Suddenly, not far from the battlefield, came a violent rumble that shook the earth and mountains. Immediately afterward, a dazzling golden light flashed, illuminating the gloomy gray sky like noon in midsummer, so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. Roar! Before the people present could adapt to the sudden appearance of the dazzling golden light, a loud roar that shocked the soul and made people feel fear came. Accompanied by this soul-shaking roar, an incomparably huge black shadow appeared in front of everyone. Everyone looked closely and saw that the shadow was a huge giant with 9 eyes, and its skin was like a tree, showing a withered grayish-brown color, and there were many protrusions on its back. Outer Path Demon Statue? Uchiha, Shinichi, and Bippa Juzo were shocked. As the secret place of every Akatsuki gathering, Uchiha, Shinichi, and Bippa Juzo were no strangers to the Outer Path Demon Statue, but both of them thought that the Outer Path Demon Statue was just an ordinary giant statue. After all, the Akatsuki organization hasn't officially launched the Tailed Beast capture plan, so they didn't know the true identity of the Outer Path Demon Statue. Soon, everyone noticed that the dazzling golden light turned out to be a golden sword about 100 meters long. The dazzling golden sword danced again, flashing a dreamy halo, and fiercely slashed towards the Outer Path Demon Statue. The Outer Path Demon Statue roared and waved its arms to meet the dazzling golden sword. Boom! Boom! As the gigantic heretic Tao Devil statue waved its arms, the surrounding steel towers were easily swept to the ground by the heretic Tao Devil statue like withered branches. The huge tremors were accompanied by smoke and dust, sweeping in all directions. At this moment, the people present had no time to care about the giant statue and the golden sword that were fighting not far away. This was because the earth-shaking tremors alone, as well as the shock waves that were mixed with countless fragments and flying rocks, had already caused them to be covered in dirt and grime. Even some unlucky people were directly hit by the huge steel fragments in the shock wave and died without knowing what happened. After retreating far away, several people on Mai's side jumped to a tower, the survivors on Kumo's side jumped to another tower, while Uchiha, Shinichi, and Bippa Juzo of the Akatsuki organization jumped to the third tower far away from Mai's side and Kumo's side. Neither side had any intention to make a move, but all of them looked at the distance in horror, looking at the giant and the golden sword that were fighting. Due to the distance and the smoke and dust, all the people present, including Jishui, Shinichi, and Kakashi, who have Manjikyu Sharingan, couldn't see the details of the battle in the distance. Everyone could only vaguely see the huge body of the Outer Path Demon statue raging in the Rain Village, and wherever it went, it was unstoppable, leaving only a mess. As for the dazzling golden sword that was several hundred meters long, it was extremely ferocious. Every time it slashed down, it would cause the heretic demon statue to let out a shrill howl. If the sword ray hit the surrounding towers, the sturdy towers made of steel would be easily sliced in half like tofu. The edges of the cuts were so smooth that they seemed to have been meticulously polished. Looking at this scene, the The people on several towers couldn't help but show a look of horror. What happened? Jiraiya, who was still absorbing the natural energy with his hands clasped together, swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He was a little confused at this moment, completely unable to figure out what happened. The two-toed immortals standing on his shoulders were also dumbfounded. Whether it is the power of the outer path demon statue, as the body of the Jubi, or the overbearingness of the golden wheel reincarnation explosion, both made them feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Who is fighting who? Kakashi and Guy, who were supporting each other, had a dull look in their eyes. The confrontation in the distance is obviously beyond their understanding of ninja battles, and what makes them even more helpless is that they don't even know who the two sides are. Jishui, who was standing on the side, secretly clenched his fist and prayed in his heart, "Senpai, you must win." Unlike others, as a member of Amatsukami, Jishui naturally understood that the person who just saved him is none other than the leader of Amatsukami, Hyojin. On the other tower, Shinichi grinned and said, "So that's how it is." Shinichi, who was defeated by Hyojin's Tenseigan chakra mode, immediately recognized the dazzling golden sword that easily cut his Susanoo. As Nagato used the magic lamp body technique to transmit the news that he was fighting with the leader of Amatsukami, in Shinichi's mind, the figures of Hyojin and the leader of Amatsukami gradually overlapped. At this time, Shinichi figured out everything. He understood that the leader of Amatsukami that the Akatsukami was extremely afraid of was none other than Hyojin, who ordered him to lurk inside the Akatsukami. Bippa Juzo, who was next to Shinichi, muttered to himself, "I didn't expect the leader of Amatsukami to be so strong." Shinichi smiled and said, "Now we have a good show to watch." Bippa Juzo glanced around and reminded Shinichi, "Since the leader of Amatsukami has made a move, then their members should also be nearby, whether it is Suijin, Homasubi, or that ninja using magnet release, all of them are extremely difficult to deal with." At this time, Konan also flew into the air with a gloomy face. Just now, she wanted to help Nagato, but she didn't expect that the battle between Hyojin and Nagato would suddenly escalate to the point of life and death, and even Nagato was forced to summon the outer path demon statue in the village. Konan was the first to bear the brunt and was affected. Fortunately, her paper release was good at dealing with such a situation, and the paper clone allowed her to avoid the fierce shockwave just now. Flying high in the sky, Konan looked at Suijin with an embarrassed expression and muttered, "How can he have such a tyrannical chakra? How can he have such tyrannical chakra? The strength of this chakra is almost comparable to Nagato's Rinnegan chakra. No, it is not inferior to Nagato's Rinnegan chakra. How is this possible?" Outside the Hidden Rain village, Lei Ying and Hirako, who were panting from the battle, looked in the direction of the Hidden Rain village. The roar of the outer path demon statue and the dazzling golden light that flashed from time to time disturbed their minds. On the other side, Obsidian, who was covered in blood, stood on the big tree he created with wood release, looking in the direction of the Hidden Rain village and said, "What happened? Why did he suddenly use the outer path demon statue?" Below, the 3 generations Naruto looked at the dead and injured Mayumbu on the ground and said bitterly, "I didn't expect that our Mayumbu would be attacked by wood release one day." Chapter 360. Looking at the tree with twisted roots and twining branches, the 3rd generation King Yunlua's face was filled with shock and amazement. It is no exaggeration to say that my village was built on the wood release Kekii limit. The first Hokage Senju Hashirama relied on his unparalleled wood release Kekii to quell the chaos and establish Konoha, the head of the 5 great shinobi villages. In the past few decades since the establishment of Konoha, the wood release Kekii limit has completely integrated with Konoha village, becoming the symbol of Konoha. After the first generation passed away, the entire village, from top to bottom, was unable to accept the fact that the wood escape blood limit boundary had been lost. Thus, the higher-ups of the village began a long and drawn-out experiment of the first-generation cell transplantation in an attempt to recreate the wood escape blood limit boundary. However, the results of the experiment were disappointing. The village invested countless people and resources in this first-generation cell transplant experiment, but what they obtained was only a few broken corpses that were devoured by the first-generation cells. In the face of failure and a large number of casualties, the village had to choose to compromise and accept the cruel fact that my village lost the wood release Kekii limit. But under the temptation of the powerful power of the wood release Kekii limit, Danzo and Orochimaru secretly continued the Hashirama cell transplantation experiment behind the back of the village, and fortunately obtained a child who successfully fused with the Hashirama cell transplantation Kekii limit. But for this, the three generations didn't know. In the hearts of the three generations, the wood release Kekii limit, like many legends in the ancient books, has become history, a legend that people will occasionally talk about after a meal. One can imagine how shocked he was when he saw the mysterious person wearing the Akatsuki red cloud suit and the one-eyed whirlpool mask in front of him could use the wood release Kekii limit. The eyes of the three generations were deep. Who are you? Why can you use the wood release Kekii limit? The obsidian standing on the tree looked at the hidden rain village and looked at the old Naruto of the three generations and said, "Defeat me, and you will know my identity." Three generations frowned. Damn it! Although their understanding of spacetime ninjutsu is not as good as the four generations, but after the previous battles, the three generations have roughly figured out the principle of Obsidian's kami. It was also because of this that the three generations understood that as long as the Obsidian had no desire to attack, no one would be able to hit the Obsidian. Obsidian, who was able to use wood release, did not need to be in close contact at all. He could use wood release to reap lives from afar. At this time, the corpses of the Umbu lying on the ground were the best proof. Pitter-patter at this time, the rain in the sky gradually became heavier, and there was even a mist rising from the curtain of rain. The heavy rain washed away the bloodstains on the ground, quickly forming light red puddles. Suddenly, on the tree that Obsidian created with wood release, half a body stretched out. This body was a strange man with two aloe leaves on his shoulders, half black and half white. He was Zetsu of Akatsuki. Obsidian asked in a deep voice, "What happened in the village?" Zetsu replied, "The leader of Amatsukami raided the village." The leader of Amatsukami? Obsidian's face sank when he heard this. He has already grasped most of the details of the 5 great shinobi villages, so although he is not willing to fall out with the 5 great shinobi villages in advance, he is not afraid of them in his heart. However, the mysterious and powerful God's organization was a different story. He was still very wary of God's organization. Zetsu said with a lingering fear, "Well, it was an exaggeratedly strong guy." On this point, Obsidian is not surprised, as there are only a few strong enemies in the entire shinobi world that can force Pain to summon the Outer Path Golem in the village. Listening to the conversation between Obsidian and Zetsu, the 3 generations also turned their heads to look at the hidden rain village at the other end and thought to themselves, "Amatsukami also appeared? Is it the leader of Akatsuki and the leader of Amatsukami who are fighting in the hidden rain village?" Outside the hidden rain village, on a high ground at the other end, 2 figures wearing raincoats stood quietly in the rain. If someone came forward to observe, they would be able to see that these 2 are none other than Orochimaru, one of the Sannin, and Uchiha. Orochimaru licked his lips and said in a hoarse voice, "I didn't expect this old man to have such courage to launch a surprise attack on the Akatsuki." Hearing the faint roar of the heretic demon statue, as well as the faint dazzling golden light above the hidden rain village, Orochimaru licked his lips and said in a hoarse voice, "I didn't expect this old man to have such courage to launch a surprise attack on the Akatsuki." Uchiha also laughed and said, Naruto-sama's plan for this surprise attack on the Akatsuki has helped us a lot. The Akatsuki has never given up on the pursuit of Orochimaru. It's just that Orochimaru is well aware of the principle that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, so the Akatsuki's pursuit failed several times. However, evading the Akatsuki's pursuit time and time again is not a small burden for Orochimaru, so when he received the secret information and learned that Mai is about to launch a surprise attack on the Akatsuki, he also came to the Hidden Rain Village, wanting to know the result of this battle as soon as possible. Feeling the violent chakra fluctuation in the Hidden Rain Village, even surpassing the Tailed Beast class, as well as the strong chakra reaction around the Hidden Rain Village, Orochimaru's face gradually darkened, and he said, I didn't expect the Akatsuki to have so many secrets. Mai, Cloud, and Sand Crypsis joined forces, but still fell into a bitter battle. Uchiha asked with some curiosity, Orochimaru-sama, do you know who is fighting in the Hidden Rain Village? A trace of fear flashed in Orochimaru's snake-like vertical pupils, and he said in a low voice, one of them should be the leader of the Akatsuki organization, Pain, who has the Rinnegan. As for the other party, Uchiha asked, who is the other party? After thinking for a while, Orochimaru shook his head, I can't guess who it could be. Hidden Rain Village. Hyojin, who was in the Tenseigan chakra mode, had a look of bad luck on his face at the moment. He really didn't expect that Nagato's chakra was completely connected to the Outer Path Demon statue, so the 4 symbols seal he used during the sneak attack could isolate the 6 paths of pain that Nagato controlled through the black stick, but it couldn't cut off the connection between Nagato and the Outer Path Demon statue. Therefore, when he condensed 4 truth-seeking balls in less than 10 seconds and activated Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion to kill Nagato once and for all, Nagato, who was still bound by the 4 symbols seal, directly used the Outer Path Demon statue on his face. Others may not know the details of the Outer Path Demon statue, but Hyojin was well aware of it. This Outer Path Demon statue was the body of Jubi, which could also be said to be another form of the Divine Tree. Its appearance was extremely hard, and it was immune to almost any ninjutsu. Although the Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion, that Hyojin activated with the truth-seeking balls could barely break through the defense and cut into the Outer Path Demon statue, it felt like a sharp knife cutting into old cowhide. It was extremely sluggish, and after a certain extent, it was difficult to continue. Once the golden sword was pulled out, the body of the Outer Path Demon statue would quickly recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even a 10-meter cut could be restored to its original state in a short period of a few breaths. Hyojin, who knew the details of the Outer Path Demon statue, was not surprised by this. If the truth-seeking balls could completely destroy the Outer Path Demon statue, then Sage Hagoromo wouldn't have to waste time and effort to seal the Outer Path Demon statue in the moon, and Hagoromo's younger brother, Hamura, wouldn't have to personally guard the moon. Boom. Boom. At this time, the Outer Path Demon statue once again waved its arms and attacked Hyojin. Wherever it passed, it left behind a mess. Buildings were swept down by the arms of the Outer Path Demon statue, making a series of rumbling sounds. Tisk! Looking at the 2 huge arms of the Outer Path Demon statue, as well as the shock wave mixed with countless gravel, iron, and smoke, Hyojin spat lightly. Under the mask, with the inside of the bright Tenseigan, in just a short moment, he judged that he couldn't avoid this large-scale attack that had no blind spots at all. Therefore, he didn't deactivate the Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion in his hand. Instead, he used the 5th truth-seeking ball that he condensed not long ago to activate the Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. Whoosh! In an instant, a hurricane was triggered from Hyojin's hand, and it met the arms of the Outer Path Demon statue, as well as the huge shock wave that followed closely behind. Boom! The two huge storms intertwined, and suddenly formed a sharp whistling wind. The whistling wind formed by the compression of the two storms was extremely fierce. Even in the Tenseigan chakra mode, Hyojin was easily sent flying and smashed to the ground like a meteor. The huge, outer path demon statue was directly overturned to the ground, and it looked extremely miserable. After using the golden wheel reincarnation explosion to cut off the gravel and debris that fell on his body, Hyojin got up from the ruins. Because of the protection of the Tenseigan chakra, he didn't suffer any injuries, but chakra consumed a lot of energy, and he faintly felt that he couldn't bear it anymore. It's not a good idea to continue like this. Thinking of this, Hyojin fully activated the Tenseigan, and in the rain and smoke, he looked for the figure of Nagato's main body. At this time, with a slight tremor, the huge outer path demon statue also stood up, and Hyojin noticed that the wooden cart that Nagato was riding on was under the outer path demon statue. Hyojin's eyes turned cold, and immediately turned into a blue light and rushed towards Nagato. During the fight, Hyojin noticed that the villagers of the Hidden Rain village had all gathered in the underground shelter in the southwest corner of the village. Although he has tried his best to avoid spreading the battlefield to the southwest corner of the village, the scope of this level of confrontation is not something he can decide. If this confrontation continues, sooner or later, the entire Rain village will be affected. Therefore, he must end the battle as soon as possible. Staring at the approaching Hyojin, Nagato clapped his hands together and roared with a distorted face, "Shinra Tensei!" In an instant, an extremely violent repulsive force, with the wooden cart where Nagato was as the center, spread out in all directions, sweeping away all the rubble and gravel near Nagato. Hyojin, who was flying in the air, seemed to have been hit head-on by a heavy hammer. Without any leverage, he was immediately sent flying and hit a broken wall. Hyojin, who was leaning against the broken wall, immediately looked grim, and stretched out his hand towards Nagato. "Rain wheel manipulation. Since he can't rush over, then he will directly pull Nagato over." Under the suction of rain wheel manipulation, Nagato and the wooden cart under him floated up and flew towards Hyojin. 10,000 Mammoth Tensei? Nagato was taken aback. He has always used Shinra Tensei and 10,000 Mammoth Tensei to destroy the enemy. This is the first time he has been attacked by a similar ability. "Ah!" In his shock, Nagato shouted. Following Nagato's shout, the outer path demon statue immediately grabbed Nagato, who was flying towards Hyojin, with one hand and punched at Hyojin, who was lying on the broken wall, with the other. This was the moment that Hyojin was waiting for. He suddenly turned over and barely dodged the attack of the outer path demon statue. Using the smoke and dust raised by this attack, he activated the teleportation technique and pounced towards Nagato, who was caught by the outer path demon statue. Seeing that he was getting closer and closer to Nagato, Hyojin no longer cared if he would destroy the samsara eyes in Nagato's eye socket. He swung the golden wheel reincarnation explosion in his hand with all his strength and stabbed towards Nagato. But at this moment, Hyojin suddenly realized that the corner of Nagato's mouth was slightly raised, and a smile was about to appear on his face. In an instant, a huge sense of danger descended on Hyojin's heart. But at this time, he was already unable to stop himself from pouncing at full force. So he could only secretly be on guard, ready to use the fifth truth-seeking ball to defend himself at any time. And at the same time that Hyojin felt a sense of danger, the outer path demon statue opened its mouth, and a dragon-shaped shadow shot out from its mouth, spiraling towards Hyojin. Both of them were extremely fast, so they collided in the blink of an eye. Hyojin didn't even have time to activate the truth-seeking ball to defend himself, and the dragon-shaped shadow passed through his body. Not only that, but when the dragon-shaped shadow passed through his body, it even grabbed his spiritual body and tried to pull it out of his body. Hyojin's body stagnated, and a dull expression appeared on his face. But soon, this dullness dissipated, and he regained his consciousness again. Although his expression was solemn, there was no panic. Unlike ordinary ninjas, Hyojin, who has the Tenseigan, is familiar with the spiritual body, and is not inferior to Nagato, who has the Rinnegan. So after being attacked by the soul, he only froze for a moment, and then recovered, and fully activated the Tenseigan chakra into the spiritual body, and wrestled with the dragon-shaped shadow. Nagato, who was caught by the outer path demon statue, froze before the smile on his face could fully spread. He never thought that someone could actually reach the Phantom Dragon 9 seals that he launched with the help of the outer path demon statue, and he unconsciously muttered, how is this possible? After a short period of shock, Nagato roared with a ferocious expression, "Go to hell!" In an instant, Nagato frantically injected his Rinnegan chakra into the outer path demon statue, and urged the dragon-shaped shadow to tear Hyojin's spiritual body with all its might. Hyojin also went all out, patting the gourd artifact on his waist, and removed the seal on the artifact. Using his own chakra, he is indeed no match for Nagato of the Uzumaki clan, but he still has the dragon vein. Chapter 361. As the seal on the gourd was lifted, the amount of chakra's injected into Hyojin's body by the dragon vein increased by more than 10 times. In just a short moment, the nearly depleted chakra in Hyojin's body was once again replenished. At this time, Hyojin carefully observed the dragon-shaped shadow that was trying to pull his spirit out of his body. Is this some kind of sealing technique of the outer path demon statue? In his deep Tenseigan eyes, Hyojin quickly saw through the details of the dragon-shaped shadow. There was no doubt that this dragon-shaped shadow was a sealing technique that used high-intensity chakra as a medium. Its operating principle should be extraction or absorption. In an instant, a technique flashed in Hyojin's mind. That was the sealing technique that Pain used with the help of the Outer Path demon statue after the Akatsuki organization captured the tailed beast in the body of the Akatsuki organization in the original spacetime. It's too disadvantageous to fight the sealing technique of the Outer Path demon statue. After thinking to himself, Hyojin gritted his teeth and forced his arms to move and began to slowly form hand seals. Nagato, who was protected by the Outer Path demon statue, was once again shocked when he saw this scene. In the past, no matter what kind of enemy, when faced with the sole attack of the 9 seals of the Phantom Dragon, there was no room for resistance at all. As long as they were touched by the dragon-shaped shadow, there was no doubt that they would die. But this mysterious leader of Amatsukami in front of him could not only use his spirit to resist the sole attack of the 9 seals of the Phantom Dragon, but he could even control his body and use his hands to form hand seals. This was unbelievable to Nagato, because when the spirit was attacked, almost everyone would lose control of their body. Soon, Hyojin completed the hand seals and pressed his hands on the dragon-shaped shadow that penetrated his body. He shouted in a low voice, 4 symbols seal. As soon as his voice fell, ink-colored seals like chains extended from Hyojin's palm and spread around the body of the dragon-shaped shadow. It was as if ink-colored chains entangled the dragon-shaped shadow. Using his own spirit to resist the opponent's sealing technique is undoubtedly disadvantageous. Although Hyojin's Tenseigan chakra is very strong, the opponent is not an ordinary ninja. He has the Rinnegan chakra, which is the same level as the Tenseigan chakra, so if Hyojin uses pure chakra to fight Nagato's sealing technique, then the exchange ratio between him and Nagato chakra is likely to be 2-to-1, or even 3-to-1. Therefore, Hyojin chose to use sealing technique against sealing technique. In this way, the consumption of chakra can barely be balanced. With the appearance of the sealing technique, the dragon-shaped shadow's pulling force on Hyojin's spirit body was obviously reduced a lot. The situation began to slowly tilt towards Hyojin's side. Nagato's face stiffened. Immediately, he shouted with a distorted face, "Mortal, you want to fight against God? Well, I will let you see what the power of God is." After saying that, Nagato on the wooden carriage put his hands together, and the lines on the Rinnegan in his eye sockets suddenly shrank. The circular lines on the Rinnegan seemed to be activated, and the whole thing woke up, emitting a strange and indescribable power. The outer path demon statue seemed to be resonating with this strange power. The power of the 9 seals of the phantom dragon immediately increased several times. The original dragon-shaped shadow suddenly increased from 1 to 9, and each of them was a lot thicker. They fiercely rushed towards Hyojin from different directions. "God? Tisk, it's just SOSO." Hyojin spat lightly, and the pair of Tenseigan under the mask bloomed with a dazzling light, as if there were countless stars in his eyes. With the full stimulation of the Tenseigan, the 4 symbols seal, that was infused with a large amount of Tenseigan chakra, also seemed to come to life, producing new ink-colored seals one after another. At first glance, it looked like countless ink-colored hair, entangling the 9 dragon-shaped shadows that the outer path demon statue spat out. In an instant, the 2 sides were in a deadlock. "Ah!" Nagato shouted, and the circular lines on the Rinnegan shrank violently. His pupil power surged out, causing the space in front of him to slightly distort. Hyojin also gritted his teeth, and the light of the Tenseigan became more and more dazzling, faintly penetrating the demon mask that was covered with sealing techniques, making the mask that was originally able to isolate all chakra become crystal clear, like a piece of transparent jade. The contest of pupil power between Hyojin and Nagato quickly entered the climax. Both sides were surprised to find that the other's pupil power was far above their expectations, but the situation fell into a deadlock. Whether it was Hyojin or Nagato, neither dared to withdraw their pupil power rashly. Because in a confrontation of this level, even a little bit of carelessness may lead to eternal damnation. In a deadlock, Nagato stared at Hyojin, but in his heart there was a storm. For a long time, he has been convinced that his Rinnegan is supreme, that it is the weapon that the era gave him to change the shinobi world, and that it is the most precious treasure that can make him transcend mortals and become the god of the shinobi world. And this pair of Rinnegan has never let him down. No matter who it is, even if it is Hanzo who has the title of demigod in the shinobi world, in front of his Rinnegan, all of them are nothing but ordinary ants. But today, at this moment, he discovered that his Rinnegan is not unparalleled. The eyes of the leader of Amatsukami are not inferior to his Rinnegan. Hyojin was also staring at Nagato at this moment. After this fight, a question that has been troubling him for a long time has finally been answered. Before this, Hyojin has been very puzzled, with Nagato's Uzumaki clan's undying body, as well as the various mysterious abilities of the Rinnegan. How could he not be able to heal such a trivial leg injury? Not to mention the injury caused by the detonation talisman. Even if his entire leg is gone, with the various techniques that the Akatsuki has mastered, it is absolutely a piece of cake to restore a pair of broken legs. It doesn't even need to involve any forbidden techniques. It is completely within the scope of medical ninjutsu. But Nagato is paralyzed, and has to rely on a wooden cart to move. This is really difficult for Hyojin to understand. And after this battle, Hyojin discovered that it is not that Nagato is unable to heal such a trivial leg injury, but that he is using himself as nourishment to continuously supply chakra to the outer Michinoku. This also made Hyojin understand why the Akatsuki in the original spacetime waited for more than 10 years, waiting for Naruto's generation to fully mature before starting to collect tailed beasts. It is not that they don't want to collect tailed beasts in advance, but they can't. The outer Michinoku has not fully recovered yet. Obviously, the Akatsuki has waited for so many years for the outer Michinoku to completely recover, waiting for the outer Michinoku to fully recover, waiting for the outer Michinoku to regain the ability to absorb the 9-tailed beasts and resurrect the 10-tailed beasts. And the heavy responsibility of restoring the outer Michinoku is undoubtedly on the shoulders of Nagato alone. This is also why even if Nagato gradually adapted to the Rinnegan and has the physique of the Uzumaki clan, he still can't recover from his injuries. Oh no! After understanding this, Hyojin suddenly had a bad feeling. Because Nagato wants to restore the outer Michinoku, he is constantly supplying chakra to the outer Michinoku. This is also the reason why the seal of the 4 symbols that Hyojin used before couldn't cut off the connection between Nagato and the outer Michinoku. And because of this, the outer Michinoku has stored a large amount of chakra that Nagato has been instilling for a long time. In other words, the outer Michinoku is now a giant battery, storing a large amount of Nagato's own chakra. If the situation is bad, and Nagato's life is in danger, then Nagato will definitely transfer chakra from the outer Michinoku. After all, if he lost his life, the resurrection of the 10 tails would be meaningless and would be like the moon in the water. Hyojin thought to himself, I have to think of something. After feeling the huge amount of chakras on Hyojin, Nagato is not willing to continue fighting Hyojin with chakra. Although he still has a trump card, and can transfer chakra from the outer Michinoku, that is the result of his hard work over the years. Once it is transferred, it is equivalent to the nourishment of the outer Michinoku. All these years is wasted, and the plan to collect tailed beasts and resurrect the 10-tailed beasts will be greatly delayed. Unless it is absolutely necessary, Nagato will not take that step. Therefore, both of them are thinking of other ways to deal with each other. The first thing that came to Hyojin's mind was naturally his trump card, the truth-seeking ball. Because he has to deal with Nagato's 9 seals of the Phantom Dragon, 3 of the 5 truth-seeking balls were removed by Hyojin, and he only kept 2 for emergencies. Because the dragon-shaped shadow of the 9 seals of the Phantom Dragon has already penetrated his body and is entangled with his spiritual body, he does not dare to use the truth-seeking ball to attack the dragon-shaped shadow, afraid that it will affect his spiritual body. Therefore, the 2 truth-seeking balls are temporarily idle. Just when Hyojin is struggling to move the 2 truth-seeking balls and want to use them to attack Nagato, he suddenly found that the black rods that are stuck in Nagato's back are radiating a network of chakra again. On the battlefield in the distance, the 6 paths of pain who were buried in the ruins all regained consciousness in an instant. Among them, Tendo Pain raised his hands and shouted, Shinra Tensei! Boom! Along with a loud noise, the ruins covering the 6 paths of pain were all repelled by the repulsive force of Shinra Tensei. On a few towers not far away, whether it is Mai, Cloud Village, or the Akatsuki, all of them noticed this change. Kakashi said with a solemn expression, Did they resurrect? Jiraiya, who is more experienced, quickly noticed the clues and said in a deep voice, No, they should not be the real body. Standing on Jiraiya's shoulder, Sage Fukasaku nodded and said, Little Jiraiya is right, they seem to be puppets controlled by chakra. On the side, Jishui had a worried look on her face as she thought, Senpai is right, these are puppets of the Akatsuki's leader, but why did they suddenly move? Could it be that something went wrong on Senpai's side? Since the beginning of the battle, the outer path demon statue didn't roar, and the dazzling golden light didn't appear again, so Jishui couldn't help but worry. I'll deal with them, Jiraiya said while loosening his clasped hands. At this time, red marks appeared on his face, and a lot of bumps appeared on his nose, like the bumps on the back of a frog. These small changes on his body were the characteristics of practicing Mount Myaboku's immortal technique, and it was also the manifestation of Jiraiya successfully entering Sage Mode. Just as Jiraiya in Sage Mode was preparing to fight Pain's 6 paths, the 6 paths of Pain turned a blind eye to Jiraiya and the others. Azura, the strongest of the 6 paths of Pain, carried the animal path on his shoulder, and then through the animal path towards the battlefield between Hyojin and Nagato. As the animal path was thrown into the distance, it didn't take long for the rest of the 5 paths of pain to disappear in a puff of white smoke. On Suijin's side, he immediately noticed the animal path descending from the sky, and then watched helplessly as the animal path used psychic jutsu to summon the other pentapaths of pain. Looking at the 6 paths of pain appearing in front of him, Hyojin smiled bitterly. At this time, the sleeves of the 6 paths of pain shook in unison, and a black stick appeared in each of their hands, and they quickly rushed towards Hyojin, who was controlled by the 9 seals of the Phantom Dragon. Hyojin could only move his hands slightly at this moment, but it was enough. He urged a truth-seeking jade to turn into an arc-shaped black shield in front of him, and used his fingers that could move to command the other truth-seeking jade to face the 6 paths of pain. Although Nagato sensed that the black truth-seeking ball was very dangerous, he didn't control the 6 paths of pain to deliberately avoid Suijin's truth-seeking ball. Instead, he urged the 6 paths of pain to attack Suijin with all his strength. Although Nagato sensed that the truth-seeking ball was very dangerous, he didn't control the 6 paths of pain to deliberately avoid Suijin's truth-seeking ball. Therefore, even though the speed wasn't fast, the truth-seeking jade easily hit the animal path and directly cut him in half. Then, under Hyojin's control, the attacking truth-seeking jade turned into a long spear, expanded its attack range, and flew up, directly scraping the Azura path and the human path, cutting them into pieces. Nagato's expression changed. Although he guessed that Hyojin's truth-seeking jade wasn't simple, the power of the truth-seeking jade and its ability to injure upon contact still surprised Nagato. Therefore, he immediately controlled the hungry ghost path to go forward and wanted to absorb the truth-seeking jade. However, the truth-seeking jade that turned into a long spear directly ignored the hungry ghost path's sealing seal, and from top to bottom, it cut the hungry ghost path in half from the middle. Greatly surprised, Nagato immediately controlled the heaven path and the Naraka path to retreat far away. Hyojin didn't want to expose the secret that the truth-seeking jade's maximum control range was less than 70 meters, so he immediately withdrew the attacking truth-seeking jade. Taking advantage of this gap, Pain immediately used the 10,000 nature summoning to absorb the remains of the 4 paths of pain that were destroyed by Hyojin's truth-seeking jade. Then, he threw them into the mouth of the Hades summoned by the Naraka path in an attempt to resurrect the destroyed 4 paths of pain. But after waiting for a long time, the 4 paths of pain still didn't come out from the mouth of the Hades. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.